Lord, we just apologize for the slight delay. The witness is just in a room behind the court. Apologize for the slight delay.
Please state your full names. Please state your full names.
Zandile Khumalo.
Any objection taking the prescribed oath?
I didn't hear. Zandile who?
Khumalo.
Any objection taking the prescribed oath? Do you swear that the evidence of what you give the court is the truth, nothing but the truth? Please raise your right hand and say so.
So help me God.
Ms. Khumalo, we are thankful that you are here to testify. I just need to say to you that mic before you, it doesn't augment your volume. It doesn't increase your volume. It is there only for purposes of recording. There will therefore be a need that you speak in such a way that we can hear you. You are free to testify standing or seated or interchangeably. You are free to indicate if you get exhausted and you need a rest, or if there is anything you need to bring to our attention during the course of your testimony.
Please, my lord. Ms. Khumalo, judgment has been handed down regarding the request that you conveyed to the state. Has the import of the judgment been explained to you?
Yes, wonke ama rights ami ngifundele wona, and ngakhetha ukuthi ngiqhubeke, and in the midst of everything, obviously appealing was one of them.
Okay.
But I chose not to.
All my rights had been written to me, or I was told about, and I decided to proceed. And also appealing was one of them, but I decided not to. Noma ke ukudlulisa ke isinqumo lesesenziwe ukuthi ke ngakwenza lokho kodwa ngathatha isinqumo sokuthi ngingakwenzi.
Ngoba bengifuna ukuthi icala liqhubeke singalokho sichitha isikhathi.
Because I wanted the matter to proceed and not for time to be wasted.
At the same time, nami ngimilana nje ngifuna ukuthi uSenzo athole justice.
At the same time, as I am standing here, I also want Senzo to get justice.
Thank you, Ms. Khumalo. What is your occupation?
I'm a singer.
During the year October 2014, where were you resident?
Bengihlala Straight View, which falls under Phosphorus.
Yes, at which address?
13511 Kutlanong Street.
Is there a name of a section?
Mzamo section.
And with whom were you staying at that address?
I stayed with my mother, Zandile Khumalo.
The deceased in this matter, Mr. Senzo Meyiwa, is he known to you?
Yes. Usenzo ngimaze ngokheli. Uyena wathi mayiqala ezwana naye banobudlelwane naye. And then after ama dates, I think ayemabili mangikhumbula kahle. Wayesethi hey khona umbhuti engihlangane naye kanje kanje.
All right. I got to know him through Kelly. She was the first one who I got to know him, or who had a relationship with him. And then after about 2 dates, she then informed me that there is this gentleman that I am now seeing.
Naye wayesechaza futhi ukuthi uyena umlisa lo umaze ngomngani wakhe olusha Mthiyane.
She also informed me that she got to know, that is now Kelly, that she got to know this gentleman, referring to the deceased, through her friend Lucia Mthiyane.
Just a minute. Now, can you just explain to the court who's Kelly?
Okheli udadewethu omdala sibabili kuma.
She is my elder sister. We are two. My mother has got 2 children.
Now, can you further explain if you say your sister, Ms. Kelly Khumalo, told you that she has met the deceased? What do you mean?
Mangichaza kabanzi kusho ukuthi sebe dateile kambadlwana and then she's interested in him as much as I think naye interested in her.
If I were to explain much deeper, that they had now dated for now, went on dates on a couple of occasions, on a few occasions, and that she was now interested in him, and same as with him, that he was now interested in her.
Did they have a relationship, a love relationship?
They had a beautiful relationship.
Yebo, babenobuhlobo obuhle.
They loved each other to an extent where babelandelana yonke indawo.
Indlela ke babethandana ngayo, that they were following each other everywhere.
At some point ngiyakhumbula ukuthi uSenzo wakumele ukuthi aye ecampini. Thina-
Just a minute.
Okay.
Do you know when this love relationship started?
Mangikhumbula kahle noma ngizama ukukhumbula kuphakathi ka 2012 no 2013 kodwa ngingazi i-date exactly.
If I remember well, or I try to remember, between 2012 and 2013, although I won't remember the exact date.
Do you know where the deceased stayed at the time during their relationship?
Bengakaze ngiye kwakhe kodwa ngangizwile ukuthi uhlala eBaklo.
I didn't yet gone to his place, but I heard that he was staying in Baklu.
Yes, from Batlu. What happened?
And then every now and then ke mabehlangana noKelly bekuthi mhlambe sihlangana ema-restaurant noma endaweni zobumnandi.
Every now and then, if it was so that he was to meet Kelly, would meet at restaurants or were at entertainment places.
At the time of his death, where was the deceased staying?
He was living with Kelly.
Ngenkathi-
Malberton.
Oh, sorry. Ngesikhathi ke sokushona kwakhe wayehlala kanye noKelly eMalberton.
Do you know if they, or let's put it to this way, do they have any offsprings?
Yes, they have a daughter, Utingo. She is 9 years old now.
Banaye ke umntwana wendodakazi uThimbo igama lakhe oneminyaka ewu9 manje.
Now, Ms. Khumalo, is it correct that on the 26th of October, a certain incident occurred which led to you coming to court to testify today?
Yes, kunjalo.
Yes, that is so.
Can you, in your own words, tell the court as to what happened? If you can start with the events of the morning.
Sasise Malberton ekseni yazo 26 lezo kuyisonto. Kuyimina uKelly umthogo because ulale he slept over.
Okay. On the day of the 26th of October, it was on a Sunday. In the morning, we were in Malberton, myself, Kelly, and Mtoko, because he had slept over.
NoSenzo naye wayekhona.
Senzo was also there. Singajafi.
Oh, bye.
Yeah.
Mtoko, is that Mr. Mtoko Zizi Twala?
Mr. Ntosi Sithwala, yes.
Mtoko Sisithwala.
Masivuka ke.
Now, just before you proceed to say Mtoko Zizi Twala slept over,
Yes.
was there a reason why he slept over?
The night before babehlangene noSenzo Stadium so kwakunetha. So wayeseza ke ezolala ngakuthina.
Okay. The night before, he had met with Senzo at the stadium, and it was raining. So he then came to sleep over at us.
Yes.
Yes, you may proceed.
Kwase ke ekseni kwakhona ke ngezwa kuthiwa ethu Senzo no Kelly be discuss ukuthi khona iphathi bekumele baye kuyona iphathi ka Roy Mahamudza, which is one of the players we Orlando Pirates at that time.
In the morning, I then had a discussion between Senzo and Kelly that they were to attend to a party of one of an Orlando Pirates player at the time, or a player that was playing for Orlando Pirates then, Roy Mahamudza.
And then at the same time nathi sasine show because bengisebenza naye ngaleso sikhathi usisi wami. Sasine show Dorothy Nyembe ye Can Do.
At the same time, we also had a show. At the time, I was working with my sister. We had a Can Do show at Dorothy Nyembe.
Yes, and where is this place, Dorothy Nyembe?
It's a Soweto.
It's in Soweto.
What type of place is it?
Park kanje.
It's sort of a park.
Yes, you may continue.
Sasisuka ke ekseni sesilungiselela ukuya khona. Sahamba sisonke emotweni eyodwa.
We then left in the morning preparing to go there, and we all traveled in the same vehicle.
Mase sifika khona mase sifika la sise endaweni yephathi ngoba inhloso kwakukuthi sizofike sishiya uSenzo endaweni yephathi la ephathini ka Roy Mahamutsa bese thina siyaqhubeka semsebenzini.
And then upon arrival at the venue of the party, because the idea was upon arrival at where the party was to be held, we were going to leave Senzo there at the party, and then we proceed to work.
Yes.
Kwasentholakala ukuthi babesenza amalungiselelo ephathi ngakaqali. Kwase ukuthi ke uSenzo sekumele ukuthi sihambe naye nomthokozisi badlulele nathi siye showing lesasekuyona.
Upon arrival, we then found out that they were still in the preparation phase of the party, and the party hadn't started. So it so happened that we then had to leave with Senzo as well as Mtoko to the show.
Mtoko is now Mtokozisi.
Umthokozisi, yes. And then ke sase sifika eDorothy Nyembe nakhona futhi beku right nje sifike kahle ngesikhathi sase silinda kancane ngoba kwakukhona abasa performer before thina so sizivumele ukuthi singene.
We then arrived at Dorothy Nyembe, and everything was just okay, and we arrived on time. It's so that we had to wait before we could go in because there were those that were performing.
Yes. Did you then carry out a performance there?
Yes, we carried out a performance on that particular day noma futhi sesiqeda sathi ukuhlala kancane.
Yebo ke saperforma ngalelo langa, but after performing we spent a while.
Yes. What time did you leave the venue of the performance? Dorothy Nyembe?
Noma ngengikhumbula isikhathi esi-exact kodwa kwakula ko past 2 to 3.
Although I won't remember the exact time, but it was past 2 to 3.
Saseke mase siqala sesingena endleleni sesihamba uSenzo mangikhumbula kahle wayelokhu efone echeck ukuthi iphathi ihamba kanjani amalungiselelo ahamba kanjani wayesethola ukuthi akukalungi.
If I remember well, as we were driving, Senzo was on the phone all the time trying to find out as to how were the preparation, how was the party going, and then it found out that how it was, and then I found out that it was not, the preparations were not done yet.
Mase sendleleni kanjalo uSenzo wayesecela ukuthi ucela ukuthi ukudlula in one of the houses khona lapha eSoweto lapho nama ngazi but wathi yena mayichaza kwakuhlala umama womdlali ayemazi so befuna ukudlula amshiyela imali.
As then Senzo then made a request to go past a certain house in Soweto. I also don't know the house, but as he explained, it was a player's mother, or a former player or a player's mother who was staying there, and he wanted to go past there and leave money for the lady.
Yes. Did you then stop over at that place?
Yes, we stopped over at that place.
Yebo safika semake kuleyo ndlu leyo.
Yes, and then from there?
And then mase sisuka lapho ke waphinde futhi washo uSenzo ukuthi ucela ukuthi sidlule kubo kaMthoko. I had never been there before. It was my first time there.
Also, Senzo made another request that he was requesting for us to go past Mtoko's home, and I had never been there, so it was my first time on that day.
Kwaseke uMthoko mase sifika khona eSprayt eKatlehong wehla wangena endlini thizeni then mayisephuma esegqoka i-top yokugcina esezongena emotweni futhi.
And when we got there in Spruit or Katlehong, Mthoko went into a particular house or a certain house, and then when he came out, he came out wearing a top, and then coming into the car.
And then sasisuka ke lapho sa driver sangena ku N3.
From there we drove and went into the N3.
Mase sendleleni kanjalo ngangizwa nje uSenzo lokho ekhuluma noTumelo efonini nami uTumelo bengingamazi ngamazi ngalolo suku lolo elokho emcheck ukuthi how far.
As we were traveling, I heard Senzo was talking, and he was talking to Tumelo. At the time, Tumelo was not known to me, and he was trying to find out from him as to how far he was.
Then kwase ukuthi emva kwe call lapho uKheli wasetshela uSenzo ukuthi ucela ukuthi ngcono ukuthi amtshele ukuthi ehle ku N3 sizomthatha ku off ramp yase Spruitview.
Okay, and then after the call, Kelly informed Senzo to tell him to get off at the M3, and then we're going to get him at the Spruitview off ramp.
Yes, and what is he saying?
And you say it is which off ramp?
Sorry?
Spruitview off ramp.
Yes, and what is Tumelo's surname?
Madlala.
Madlala.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then nangempela nathi mase siqala sithatha off ramp sisuka ku N3 sesingena ngase Spruit View sahlangana naye as a walker towards where we were waiting for him.
And indeed, when we took that off ramp, then we then met him walking towards where we met him.
And just for record purposes, if you say you met him, who are you referring to?
Tumelo Madlala.
Tumelo Madlala. Ngikhuluma ngoTumelo Madlala uma ngisho.
And then ke samthatha ku Tumelo lapho ku N3 sehla sa ekhaya.
We then took Tumelo from the entry and we then went down home.
Yes, and can you just explain to the court why did you head to your home?
We headed home simply because earlier on uKelly spoke to Uma ukuthi okay since iphathi ngasenzeki ngaleso sikhathi Uma siyazi ukuthi njalo ngesonto uhlale ephekile ngaso sonke isikhathi wayesethi uKelly ngcono siyodla lunch ekhaya.
We went down there simply because the party hadn't started at the time, and then Kelly contacted my mother, and then we know that each and every Sunday our mother cooks, and then Kelly then said it would be better for us to go and have lunch there.
More or less, what time did you pick up Mr. Tumelo Madlala at the Spruit View offering?
Mangicabanga kahle if ngisakhumbula bekungo 3 to 4 lapho nje.
If I can remember well, it was 3 before 4 around there.
And then sasesifika ke ngaphandle kwasekhaya singakangeni phakathi ejardini sakhumbula ukuthi konje endlini kuzodingeka ama drinks, and then sasesithi ngcono siye Zanzi kwa Khwembu's Tavern.
Who's that?
Khwembu.
Khwembu.
Yes.
We then got outside, to the outside of my home, before we could get inside or into the premises. We then thought that or realized that the drinks would be needed. We then went down to Khwembu's place.
And what type of place is that?
It's a tavern where they just sell drinks, acha, amanqina, and yeah, but basically just beverages.
Laba betting sakhona ke iphuzo, acha, and referring to amanqina, it's feet. Amanqina is
Trotters,
which one?
We're in Nkomo.
Nkomo. Oh, they're referring to trotters. They're talking about that because most of the amanqina. Okay, so it's trotters.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then masesifika ke ngaphandle ka Khwembu's Tavern uSenzo noKelly ba realize ukuthi abanayo I-cash ngoba kwa Khwembu bengathathwa ilanto iCard.
Okay. Upon arrival at Khwembu's place, both Kelly and Senzo then realized that they didn't have cash, and at the time, because at Khwembu's place they didn't make use of card payments.
So nami ke ngaleso sikhathi ngayisesha ngathola ukuthi no 400 esikhwameni, and then ngathi ngcono ukuthi sisebenzise one.
I then searched myself and then found out that I had 400 rands in my pocket, and then said that it's better to use it.
And then ke ngaphakathi kwangena mina nomthokozi Sithwala,
The people who went inside was myself and Mtokozi Sithwala.
and then masifika phakathi, that's when we bought Heineken, if I remember correctly, ne Guarana.
And then when we went in, if I remember well, that's when we bought Heineken and Guarana.
If you can remember the quantities, you can mention that.
Angikhumbuli kahle quantity, but sawusebenzisa nje wonke u 400 kwabushintsho omncane.
I can't remember the quantity, but we used all the 400 and we got a small change back.
Yeah, so you just mention all the brands of alcohol that you bought.
Guarana engikhumbulayo
Which I can remember is Guarana
ne Heineken.
and Heineken.
Yeah. And then sasasuka lapho ke sabuyela sayikhaya sangena sapaka, and then sangena endlini.
From there, we then went back home. We drove in, we parked, and we went inside the house.
What time did you get to your house, your parental house?
If I remember correctly, noma ngasekho sure kangakanani, but bekulako 4:30 to 5.
Although I'm not that certain, about 4:30 to 5, or before 5.
Kodwa nje ilanga lalisekhona.
But the sun was still out.
And then ila uma asamukela khona, and then wasihlalisa phansi waphaka ke.
That's where my mother then made us to sit down, welcomed us, made us to sit down, and then she dished up.
And in which room were you seated?
We were sitting in the dining room.
Sahlezi-ke e-dining room.
Do you still remember the sitting arrangements there in the dining room?
Yes, I still remember the sitting arrangements.
We are going to show you a photo number 64. If you are able to explain the sitting arrangement using the photo, you can please do so.
That's photo number.
Photo number 64, a lot of exhibit B.
Okay, so la kwakeluma.
Okay, masubanga lapho.
Or maybe photo
Yeah.
65, sorry, Penny. Photo 65. Yes, you
This
can
one?
use both. Let's start with photo 64. This photo 64 of exhibit B, my lord.
So la kwakeluma.
My mother was seated, my mother was seated here.
Where's is there a television set in there?
The television set is more to the side.
I-TV-ke ingapha uhlangothi lo.
Then kwahleli mina la ngoba every now and then ngangilokhu ngidlala nengane la.
I was seated there because every now and then I was playing with a child there.
Excuse me, Lord. Perhaps if she refers to here and there, the speaker is needed for the portions to say, like here she means the left portion of the sofa or the middle portion or the other side of it. That's the basis.
Yeah, that's fair enough, my lord. How many couches are there in the dining room?
In the dining room, there's 2 couches which are sitting opposite to each other, and then an ottoman at the corner.
Kunama-couch amabili-ke laphayana e-dining room abhekene ekhoneni ottoman.
The ottoman.
I-ottoman-ke esekhoneni.
Where would the other couch be?
The other couch will be more to this side, which is opposite this one. Yeah,
U-couch-ke uzoba ngapha uhlangothi-ke yona-ke
just
ubhekene nalo.
opposite.
You've just indicated a place that your mother was seated
Yes.
on the edge of
On the
the
edge.
sofa, of the couch, sorry, closer to the television set.
Yes, that's true.
Hlezi-ke eduze ngaku-TV uma.
And then again, mina ngangihleli la phakathi nendawo la.
I was seated here in the middle.
And then again, kulo sofa omunye ke lo la opposite.
Yeah, and were you the only two on the
Yes.
couch?
For starters, yes, bekuyimina naye.
Ekuqaleni-ke yebo bekuyimina-ke naye bekuyithi ababili abahlezi laphayana.
Yes.
Can you point again to the edge where you sat?
This is why I said,
Or where your mother sat?
my mother sat at the edge just towards the TV.
Yes.
We just want to show you another photo. Photo number 15. So we're just trying to locate the photo with the other couch.
Photo number what?
This is photo number 58 of exhibit B. Photo 57 of exhibit B. If you can just explain the sitting arrangement.
Okay, and then la eqaleni kwakuhleli
And that's photo number?
57 malot of exhibit B.
Yes.
Appears on page 60 of the bundle note.
Yes, I found it.
Yeah.
so la eqaleni ngase TV kwakuhleli uTumelo.
Yeah, at the beginning, close to the TV, or close to the TV, Tumelo sat there.
And then eceleni kwakhe kwakuhleli uMthokozi Sithwala.
Next to him was Thokozi Sithwala.
And then eceleni kwakhe kwakuhleli uSenzo.
Next to him was Senzo.
Just a minute.
You say it was Tumelo first,
Yes,
then
it was Tumelo first, and then Mthokozisi right next to him. And then Senzo was right next to Mthokozisi, and then Kelly at the edge.
Base about Kelly ekugcineni.
So where was Kelly seated?
She was sitting on the ottoman at the edge here.
Yes?
Yes, what happened further? You had a meal, then what happened?
And then we had a meal. Kumnandi kuhlekwa. Kuyimina engangilokhu ngikhipha iphuzo edifreezeni.
We had a meal. It was, we were having fun, we were laughing, and I'm the one who was taking the drinks out of the fridge.
Yes?
And then
There's a television set there. Do you know if the television set was playing on the day?
yes, ngalolo suku ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwakudlala some English soccer. I'm not really good ngebhola, but ngiyazi ukuthi it was one of those overseas teams.
I know that there was some English soccer. I'm not good when it comes to football, but I know that it was those English teams, or overseas teams.
And then ke sahlala kumnandi sidla, and then after some time ngingakhumbuli kahle whether uLongwe SMS'd me or phoned me, but there was some form of communication between him and I.
Okay, wonderful. We had fun, and after we ate, and then after some time there was some form of communication between myself and Longwe. I don't know whether he called me or it was via SMS.
uLongwe was my boyfriend at the time,
And what is his surname?
Longwe Twala.
Longwe Twala.
And then ke wangibuza ukuthi ngikuphi, ngase ngamtshela ngathi sisekhaya, sihleli, we were just having lunch, no Senzo and everyone else.
He then wanted to know where I was. I told him that we were home. We were just having lunch together with Senzo and everyone else.
And then ke he asked to come, ngathi naye angeke kube inkinga lokho, he can come. Ngase ngiyahamba ngabuza uma ukuthi ukudla kuzoba enough na. And then uma said, hayi ku right, ukudla kukhona kodwa kuzodingeka isopo.
I then went to my mom to go and inquire whether the food would be enough. She then said that the food is okay. The only thing that will be needed is soup.
Yes?
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke after some time uma wayesecela ukuthi uSenzo uKelly ayomthengela isopo la phezulu.
And then after some time, my mother then requested Kelly to go and buy the soup.
Yes.
Wayesethi kuSenzo hayi ngizokuphelezela base bephuma bobabili.
Senzo then said, I'll accompany you, and then the two of them went out together.
Ekusenjalo kwangena SMS eqhamuka kuLongwe ethi ungaphandle.
Whilst at that, there was an SMS, or an incoming SMS from Longwe saying that he was outside.
And then ngase ngene ekamereni ngiyashintsha ngafaka ngathi ukufudumela ngoba kwaseqale ngathi kuyabandabanda.
I then went into the bedroom to change just to wear something warm because now the cold was starting. Or it was starting to be cold.
Ngase ngiyaphuma ke ngiyangaphandle ngithi ngiyohlangabeza uLongwe we ngathola ukuthi uKelly usayimotweni usawuthatha imali ama coins nakhona because bebengena imali earlier.
Then on my way out to go and meet Longwe, then met Kelly was still on her way to the car to go and fetch money and coins because earlier on they didn't have money.
And then uSenzo went and greeted uLongwe because they were very good friends.
Wasehamba ke uSenzo eyobingelela uLongwe ngoba babe abangani.
Yes, and where was Longwe at that stage?
He was in his car.
Wayesemotweni yakhe ke ngaleso sikhathi uLongwe.
Yes, what type of car?
It was a Polo Vivo ebovu.
Red Polo Vivo.
What color?
Red.
Right. Yes, you may proceed.
And then again nami ngafika ngajoina kulo conversation kaSenzo noLongwe mabesaxoxa, nami ngafika ngabingelela isithando sami ngaleso sikhathi.
I also then joined that conversation between Senzo and Longwe, and I also greeted my love, or my lover at the time.
And then ke ngase ngicela ukuthi uLongwe aphume ke emotweni angene endlini, and then makusenjalo uKelly wabuya emotweni bathathana noSenzo baqhubeka bayothenga esitolo thina sangena endlini.
I then requested Longwe to get out of the car and to go inside the house, and from there Kelly came back, and then she and Senzo then proceeded to go to the shop.
And then ke sangena ke noLongwe endlini, wafika wabingelela uma, wabingelela abakhona, wangena wahlala phansi, yaqhubeka ke conversation nje.
We then went into the house. Longwe greeted my mother. He greeted the ones that were inside. Sat down, and then the conversation that just proceeded.
And who was inside the house at that stage?
Inside the house was Mthokozi Sithwala and Tumelo Madlala.
Ababephakathi ke ngaleso sikhathi kwakuMthokozi Sithwala kanye noTumelo Madlala.
If you can once again just demonstrate on this photo 57 where Longo was seated.
And then ulo mayingena ufike wahlala la ekhoneni towards the fridge and the heater.
When Longo came in, he sat there at the corner towards the fridge and the heater.
If we can show you photo 64.
He sat, when upon arrival, he sat here.
And then ke after lapho uKelly noSenzo babuya esitolo uKelly wanikeza uma isobho uma wenza isobho waphakela ulongo wadla.
After that, Kelly and Senzo came back from the shop. Kelly gave my mother the soup, and then my mother then dished up for Longo, and he ate.
And when the deceased and Kelly came back, where did they sit?
They stood outside. They stood outside baqhubeka or at some point uMthokozisi no Tumelo baphumile bayobhema wayilulongo esadla.
Okay. Buziwe ke ukuthi uma bebuya ke umshushisi ubuziwe ukuthi umufi noKelly babekuphi babe ngaphandle. And at some point Tumelo and Mthokozisi went outside to go and smoke.
Yes.
And then mina ke mangihleli ngaphakathi endlini ngangibezwa nje beyiniza ngaphandle ngaphandle komnyango.
Benzani?
Beyiniza. Okuyiniza, it's when bekhuluma but you can't really hear the
Okay.
conversation.
And at some time I then heard them just close to the door. They were talking, but we are unable to make out as what it is they are saying.
Yes. Who are you referring to?
I'm referring to uKelly, uSenzo, uTumelo noMthokozisi.
Kelly, Senzo, Tumelo, and Mthokozisi.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke kuthe makusenjalo uLongo waqeda ukudla ngathatha iplate ngalibeka ekitchen and then uKelly wangena watshela uma wathi hayi ke ma uSenzo uthi bacela indlela.
Was that so? Longo then finished eating, and then took the plate and went to place it in the kitchen. And then Kelly then came and said, "Mother, Senzo would like to go."
Wayesethi kuma ngesintu akuvaleliswa kanjalo umuntu kumele angene endlini kahle ebesecela indlela kahle sendlini umuntu akavalelisi semnyango.
My mother then said, traditionally, that is not how a person would then ask to be excused or would then ask to go. Whilst the person is outside or is standing at the door, that they would have to come in and then ask properly or do it properly whilst inside the house.
Base bayangena ke wonke umuntu waphinde futhi wabuyela wahlala la kade ehleli khona. And then umuntu wayeme ngeenyawo kwakuKelly.
They then came in and everyone sat exactly in the same manner in which they were seated before. And then the person that was standing was Kelly.
And then tema kusenjalo uKelly khona ijoke ayesixoxela yona, although I can't remember in particular, kodwa she was narrating something eme ngeenyawo.
And there was this joke that Kelly was narrating to us. I can't remember particularly what it was, but she was narrating it to us while she was standing.
Would you like short adjournment?
Kwathi kusenjalo salalela uKelly ekhuluma and then kwangena obhuti abawu-2 endlini.
Whilst at that, and we are still listening to Kelly speaking, 2 gentlemen entered the house.
Yes?
Yes, may I proceed?
That one there in particular.
That
Please
one there
move,
in
sir.
particular.
Please move.
Someone's asking you to move. Please say that one.
So it's Starting on the left, it's accused 1, 2, up to 5.
Uthi maqala kule.
Are you guys even aware what you guys did to our lives?
Ingabe niyakwazi yini bafethu nakwenze empilweni
Are you
zethu?
guys even aware of what you guys did to us as a family on that day?
Miss Khumalo? Miss Khumalo? Miss Khumalo?
The damage that you guys caused.
Miss Khumalo, you're not supposed to do that. You.
My Lord, I strongly object to this. In the strongest possible terms, we object to this.
Mr. Baloy, do you want to?
Yes, the witness is still in the process of giving evidence. I don't know what my learned friend is objecting to.
The procedural rules, the witness is testifying to court and addressing court, not the accused persons in the document. That's my objection.
That's fair enough, my lord. Ma'am, you're still in the process of identifying the persons who came into the house. If you can just do that and refrain from further comments.
Uma ungakwenza nje lokhu kusakwenza nami kusachazake labantu abangena endlini kodwa ungakhulumi ke ongwe ungasho okunye.
Yes, you're pointing to someone.
Ukhona ukhombile ukhona umkhombile.
Yes.
Yebo.
He was one of the people that came into the house.
Omunye wabantu abangena endlini.
Kodwa yena wayengemuva.
But he was behind or he was at the back.
And then sisahleli
Just a
kanjalo.
minute, you're still pointing a person. Who is it?
It's him.
It's him.
The second one there.
Lo wesibili lapha.
Yes, just tell step by step what happened.
Awusho ke ngokulandelelana ukuthi kwenzekani.
Just a moment.
Would you like perhaps a comfort break?
I'm okay, let me just have water.
Yes. You may proceed as soon as you are able to do so.
And then sisahleli kanjalo lo bephambili wama dreadlocks ebephethe isibhamu.
Okay, was seated. The one that was in front with the dreadlocks was carrying a firearm.
Yes.
And then lo munye eme phakathi naphakathi kwekhishi just before the corridor, the hallway.
Okay. And then the second one was standing just in the middle of the kitchen and just before the hallway.
You say in the kitchen, but just before the hallway.
Just before ipassage ime kanje bese la eqaleni kodwa lo munye elapha phambili.
It's a passage like this, but it's just at the beginning, my lord, and then the other one was over there. The one was in front.
Yes.
I'm just going to show you photo 64 of Exhibit B. If you can use it to illustrate your evidence.
Is this a picture? Lo munye wafika wamala.
The other one came and stood here.
Which one is that?
The first one wama dreadlocks wafika wamala.
The first one with the dreadlocks came and stood here. The witness is pointed.
But can we just correct this issue of saying here? We don't understand what here is.
Ma'am, if I can ask you, seeing that you know the house well, if you can just, when you point, just explain what that spot is.
Just in the passage, where the passage starts, where the dining room starts.
Ilana ke passage ila khona ke ipassage iqala khona noma idining room iqala khona.
And right before bengena ngoba mina ngangihlezi la.
And right before they entered, because I was seated here,
And then
Yeah, just once again, just try and explain when you say
la
here.
esofeni, la
Yeah, on the
phakathi
couch.
esofeni, dining room.
in the dining room,
And then ngabona umnyango la kune phakathi naphakathi kwefridge ubonda lolu ifridge le, and then kunalesi spaces la.
ibambe lapho. Here in between, there's the fridge, there's a wall there, and then there is this space.
Njengoba nubona ke umnyango wasekitchen kobile lapho. So mawuhlezi la dining room uyawubona umnyango uvuleka kodwa yize noma ungeza ukubona ukuthi ubani ongenayo.
Okay. And as you can see there, that's the kitchen door. And when you're seated here in the dining room, you are able to see the door opening, although you are unable to see as to who is coming in.
And so then masisa sisahleli kanjalo, so mina mangihlezi la esofeni la kanje dining room angikwazi ukubona ukuthi ubani ongenayo kodwa umnyango ngiyawubona uvuleka.
Okay.
So ngase ngiyapopola la ukuthi ubani abangenayo.
Okay. As I was seated there in the dining room, there on the couch, and there I then could see the door opening, although I couldn't see as to who was coming in. I then looked or peeped through there as to who were those that were coming in.
Where did you peep?
Wapopola kuphi?
Ngapopola la angithi mina ngihleli la dining room part nendawo ulongo uhlezi la. So ulongo uyena okwangathi uyangi-obstructa kancane kodwa ngiyakwazi ukubona umuntu ephelele mayingena ephasithini.
Okay.
So ngase nje ukuthi ngipopole kancane ukudlula ulongo ukuze ngizobona kahle.
It was right where the witnesses pointed. I was seated on the couch where the witness pointed, and then Longo was seated next to me. So Longo was slightly obstructing me. So I had to look past Longo just to see exactly as to who was standing there.
And then ke kuthema kusuka lapho lo wayephambili wayenama dreadlocks ephethe nesibhamu esikhombe ngakuthina wayesethi khiphani imali nama cellphone.
And then the one that was in front with the dreadlocks, carrying a firearm, pointing it at us or towards us, then said, "Take out money and cell phones."
Say which one? Which one said that?
Lo uqala onama dreadlocks.
It was the first one with the dreadlocks.
I missed that, the last interpretation. What did he say? Money and cell phone?
Yes, take out money and so
Take
forth.
out money and cell phones.
Take out money and cell phone. Thank you, madam.
So do you remember in which language he spoke?
Kodwa kusho ngaliphi ulimi lokho?
Wakhuluma ngesiZulu, ngumZulu nami isiZulu ngiyasazi futhi ngiyazi umuntu mayingeyena umZulu.
He said it in isiZulu, and I'm also Zulu, and I know when a person is not a Zulu-speaking person or is not umZulu.
And then kwathi
If we can show you whilst we're still on this aspect. Photo 4 of Exhibit A.
Before that, wait. You say that that person spoke in isiZulu. Are you able to repeat the exact words?
wathi khiphani imali nama cellphone.
He said, "Take out money and cell phones."
Yeah, I'm asking you because money and cell phones is not Zulu.
Ngisho lokho ngoba
Wathi
money.
imali
He said money, imali,
nama cellphone.
and cell phones, nama cell phones.
If you can use that photo to show where the second person was.
Sithi lesi sithombe ukhombisa ke wesibili ukuthi wayekuphi indawo.
Akuhle hle sibonisi kahle hle kodwa wayesamangala.
It doesn't show that well or that clearly, but he was somewhere around here.
My lord, again, we are at the same problem of somewhere now. The record doesn't know somewhere now. The description is needed for that man. As the court places now.
Yes.
You see, I told you that there is recording happening there.
Yes.
Now, if somebody who was not here
Yes.
listens and that person just hears you saying here, it doesn't say anything to anybody who was not here, who who did not see you pointing.
I understand that.
So maybe you should go deliberate in really naming
The position.
the position.
I understand. So why me la ephasithini phakathi kobonda lolu oluseceleni kwesitofu nalolu kune fridge futhi mawuthi uyabhekisisa kahle ngapha.
This person was standing here, and between this wall, there's this wall that is next to the stove, and then on this side, when you look clearly on this side, pointing to the right side, there's a fridge.
Photo number?
Photo number 4 of Exhibit A, night photos, my lord. And it's on page 7.
And you say who stood near the stove and the fridge?
It's this one.
Again, I know you're not you. Ms. Khumalo, the one who is first from that side
The second one.
is accused number 1,
Yes.
number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Oh, that's the
That
part
is
I
how
did
you
not
should refer to
understand.
them.
Yes. So accused number 2. And then ukuthema kusenjalo sonke samangele endlini. Nakhona futhi singekho nasho ukuthi iyenzeka ngempela lento eyenzakalayo.
Okay, whilst all of us were still shocked inside the house and also not certain as to whether this thing that was taking place was indeed taking place.
Ngase ke ngizwa iclick yesibhamu
I then heard a click of a firearm,
and then uLongwe wayesesukuma same time ese pusha lo phambili wama-dreads.
and then Longwe stood up at the same time and then pushed the one with the dreadlocks,
Yena lo phethe isibhamu wamphusha wamhlehlisa wamusa emuva.
pushed the one that was carrying the firearm and pushed him backwards.
Kuthe makusenjalo ke uLongwe wathola ithuba lokuthi aphume ngomnyango wasekitchen, and then uKelly wabaleka wangena ekamereni opposite the kitchen.
And then Longwe then got a chance, that's how Longwe got a chance to go out of the kitchen door. And then Kelly ran into a bedroom that is opposite the kitchen.
Yes.
What did Kelly do?
uKelly wabaleka wangena ekamereni eli opposite kitchen.
Ah.
Okuyikamera lami ekhaya.
Kelly ran into a bedroom that is opposite the kitchen, which is my bedroom at home.
I wanted to show you a sketch plan. Not sure if you're able to show where the room is, where in Kelly ran. It's my lord, the sketch on page 20. It's part of Exhibit B, my lord.
Wabalekela lapha.
Kelly ran into this bedroom.
And then kwase kusuka lapho umsolo number 2 wamlandela.
And then from there, accused number 2 followed her.
Just for record purposes, if you say accused number 2 followed her, you're referring to?
To Kelly.
Yes, we proceed.
And then mayesesuka lapho uKelly wafike emnyango, wafika wangena ekamereni wayesevala umnyango. Bese umsolo number 2 wayezama ukuvula uKelly ezama ukuvala.
From there, and there, Kelly then, when she got into the bedroom, she then closed the door, and then accused number 2 tried to push it, open it, sorry, and then she tried, on the one side, she was pushing it to close it.
And then kuthema kusenjalo kuleso sidumo leso sasukuma sonke endlini sasesibadudula bonke bobabili saya nabe kitchen.
Okay, whilst that was happening, we all got up and we pushed both of them towards the kitchen.
Are you able to remember the order in which you got up?
Noma ngeke ngisayikhumbula kahle i-order. Kodwa sasukuma umngane nami ngayibona sengisukumile ngabona wonke umuntu esesukumile sasukuma sonke.
Although I won't be able to remember the order, but we just got up at once. I just saw myself up, and then everyone was up.
Mase sifika ke kitchen ngiyakhumbula ukuthi sonke sasibalwisa sizama ukubashaya nabo sizama ukubakhiphela phandle, but obviously mawuvula umnyango mawuzongena ekhaya umnyango uvulela ngaphakathi.
Okay. I remember that when we got to the kitchen, we were fighting them and trying to assault them and also trying to get them out. But also, when you gain access into our house, when you open the door opens to the inside.
That's the door of the kitchen.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll just show you photo 64 again. If you say the kitchen door opens to the inside, can you just show which way does it open?
Yabona umnyango uma ukanje uvalekile and then mawuvula uvulela ngapha.
If the door as is now on the photo, it is closed. And then when it opens to the side and to be towards the left.
Towards the left.
To the left.
To the left.
To the left.
Of the kitchen, yes. Yabona njengoba uvuleke kanje, this is perfect.
As it's open like this is perfect.
Mawungena nje la uvula la bese uyala emnyango.
When you go in there, when you gain access to the house, you open the house and then the door goes to that side. It's now,
It's now to the right in this picture,
On
but
this
when
picture?
inside it's to the left.
okay. On this picture, it's to the right, but on the other one, but when you're inside, sorry, it's to the left.
Okay. Referring to its photo 4 has been shown now. So you say on photo 4 it opens to the right.
Yes,
That's
uvuleka kwesokudla. Kodwa
correct.
ngaphakathi.
But to the inside.
Photo 4 of exhibit A note. And if we can go back to photo 64. You say on that photo, photo 64, it opens how?
It opens to the left on this picture.
Lana
Ukuthi
kulesi sithombe
ngaphakathi.
ke uzovulela kwesokunxele.
And then kwathi makusenjalo kusese isidumo sibalwisa nabo besilwisa. I remember ukuthi uSenzo wayeme ngaphambili kulo wamadress wayiphethe isibhamu.
All right. Whilst Evert fighting them and they also fighting us, I remember that Senzo was standing in front of the one with the dreadlocks who was carrying a firearm.
If you say you were fighting them, can you just explain what do you mean?
Uma uthi ke nibalwisa ke ungasho noma ungachaza ke ukuthi usho ukuthini.
Sasizama ukubakhipha endlini okokuqala,
Firstly, we were trying to get them out of the house,
but umnyango wawuvalekile and mawuvula uvuleleka ngaphakathi.
but the door was closed and when it opens to the inside.
So manje umnyango mawuvalekile kanjalo, laba ababili bame kanje babheke thina. They have their backs against the door.
Okay. Now, as it is closed, the two are standing like this and they are facing us. So their backs are against the door.
Yes, if you say the two who are referring to?
I'm referring to Lo Pettis Bam, Mama Dreadlocks, no accused number 2.
I'm referring to the one with the dreadlocks who was carrying a firearm, as well as accused number 2.
And then what Max Njalo, and then ngabona ama crashes gatumelo ayehleli phansi ephasijini.
And then once that, I then saw two metal scratches. They were on the floor in the passage.
Are you able to show on photo 64 where the crutches were?
Ama crashes ayelele la phansi.
The crashes were lying down here.
Utumelo wangena wawabeka, but eventually awazange ukuhlala ukuma, and then alala la phansi mayesezohlala phansi.
When Tumelo came in, he placed them, but unfortunately they couldn't stand or remain there, and then they fell when he came to sit down.
Yeah, that spot that you're pointing, which part of the house is it?
Lolu udonga oluphakathi naphakathi eqaleni kwepassage oludivide ikhishi ipassage kanye ne-dining room.
Okay, I see that, Madam. This is the wall that is now between, that is in the middle. It divides the kitchen, the dining room,
In the passage.
as well as the passage.
And then ngathatha ke crash leyo phansi nami ngithi ngizama ukushaya, and then bengafikeli.
I then took the clutch that was laying there, trying to assault, but I couldn't reach.
And then njengoba ngangafikeli kanjalo, umuntu wayeseceleni kwami kwakuTumelo.
As I couldn't reach, the person that was close to me or next to me was Tumelo.
And then uma wami wayephambili.
My mother was in front.
And then uTumelo wafika walithatha wangihlutha lona icrash lelo. Kwawuyena olisebenzisa because he had a better view than me.
Then Tumelo took the crutch from me and then used it because he had a better view than me.
If you say Tumelo used the crush, what do you mean?
Uthini mangabe uthi uTumelo wasebenzisa icrash?
Wayeshutha kumina, wayeseshaya accused number 2
He
ngalo.
took it from me and assaulted accused number 2 with it.
Kuthe makusaliwa kanjalo ngoba on the other hand kwa left ngapha emveni kumnyango uSenzo wayime lapho elwisa lo amadreds belwela isibhamu kusho ukuthi babe wrestler kanje ngesibhamu.
Okay. And whilst at that is now at the left, behind the door, was Senzo as well as the one with the dreadlocks. They were wrestling like this, as the witness indicated, wrestling for the firearm.
We just want to show you photo 15, if you can just use that photo to illustrate the evidence.
Ungasebenzisa lesithombe ke uchaza ke ubufakazi bakho.
Babela.
Then the two, they were here, the two of them.
Umsola number 2 wayela.
Accused number 2,
Wayela.
accused number 2 was here.
Yeah,
Lo
sorry, just start there. If you say the two of them were
mangithi the 2 of them ngisho umsola number 1 lo amadreds and then no Senzo.
When I say they were here, I am then referring to number 1, or suspect number 1, together with Senzo, the one with the dreadlocks.
And then who accused number 2 lo wayela.
And then accused number 2 was here.
Yes, just once again, just when you mention where they were, just mention the place.
Oh, closer
You
to
can
the
use the
sink.
door.
Closer to the sink.
You explained that they had their backs to the kitchen door. Was it still the
It
same
was still
position?
closed.
Kusavaliwe-ke umnyango womsicaba lesasesitishini.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then kwathi ke masalwa kanjalo ngezwe isibhamu siqhuma sishaya phansi and then ngashaywa inhlansi onyaweni lami la right.
Whilst at that, my lord, and then I heard the firearm going off, and then it hit the floor, or it hit the ground, and then the spark from that then hit me on my right leg.
Where were you at that stage?
Kwakuphi nendawo ngaleso sikhathi leso?
Can you show me another picture?
Can you show me another picture? Witness saying this picture doesn't show clearly.
On photo 4. The night photo.
So mina ngangime la eceleni phakathi naphakathi kwepassage
I was standing here in the middle of the passage,
and then uTumelo eme esandleni sami sakwa right.
and then Tumelo was standing on my right side, right hand,
Just nje eduzane kwestove.
just close to the stove here.
Did you see where you mentioned that the shot struck the floor. Did you see where it struck?
Ushilo ukuthi njengoba isibhamu saqhuma-ke saqhuma sashaya phansi, wabona ukuthi sashaya kuphi nendawo?
Cha, azange ngibone ukuthi sishaye kuphi kodwa ngezwe ukuthi khona sishaye phansi ngoba khona isound eyenzayo khona isound eyenzakala mesishaya phansi mekushaye i-tiles.
No, I don't know, or I cannot say where exactly, but there was just this sound that happened, or that came as it hit the floor, when it hit the tile.
And did you see what led to the firearm being discharged?
Ingabe wabona yini ukuthi yini eyaholela ekuthini isibhamu siqhume?
Angibonanga into engikhumbula ukuthi uSenzo wayelwa belwisana nesibhamu nobhuti lwamadreds.
I didn't see. What I saw was Senzo fighting together with a gentleman that had the dreadlocks, fighting for the firearm.
And at that stage when the firearm went off, was the deceased and the person with the dreadlock still in the positions that you described?
Ngalesikhathi isibhamu sesiqhuma-ke ngabe umufi kanye nalo ama-dreadlocks babesekule ndawo le uyichazile ngaphambilini.
Babeseme lapho and then later on uKelly wafika wazojoyina naye lapho.
Yes, they were still standing there, and then later on, Kelly also came and joined in.
Now, at which stage did Kelly join in?
Kungasiphi-ke isikhathi-ke ukufika kaKelly ezojoyina naye.
Before inhlamvu izoqhuma.
It was before the firearm went off.
If you are able to elaborate, what did she do when she joined in?
Mayefika ekitchen wahamba olekelela uSenzo la alwisana khona no suspect number 1.
When she came in, she went to Senzo, to where Senzo was, to go and assist Senzo with suspect number 1.
Yes, and your mother at that stage, where was she?
Uma wayekuphi?
Uma wayela naye kuyena ophambili just opposite the sink. Kuyena wayephambili as attacker accused number 2.
My mother was here. She was in front, that's opposite the sink, taking accused number 2.
How?
Kanjani?
Yes.
How was he taking accused number 2?
Ngezandla.
With hands.
And then kwathi mangizwa leso sibhamu ke masishaya phansi ngabaleka, and then nami mangibaleka noTumelo kanti uzwe lento nami ngiyizwile, ngabona naye baleka ngena in one of the bedrooms, mina ngabaleka ngangena e bathroom.
Okay. When I heard the firearm, when it went off, I then ran. It so happened that Tumelo also heard what I heard, and he also ran, and he ran into one of the bedrooms, and I ran into the bathroom.
I just want to show you the sketch plan again, my lord, on page 20 of Exhibit B. Are you able to show the bathroom wherein you ran?
The bathroom, the wabalekela kuyona.
Nansi bathroom la, mina ngabaleka ngangena la, sisuka la.
Yeah, okay. Here is the bathroom. I ran into this bathroom, and we're coming from.
Sasuka la.
We're coming from a witness pointing to that opening or passage there. We're coming from here.
And Tumelo, which bedroom did he run?
Wabalekela kuphi Tumelo yena?
I can't remember to be precise ukuthi lona lephi camera. Kodwa ngiyazi yena ukuthi wathi mayingena kwelinye camera mina ngangena ebathroom.
I can't be precise and say which bedroom exactly, but I know that when he ran into the bathroom, into the bedroom, I ran into the bathroom.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then mase ngifika ke ebathroom ngangime ngeenyawo. And then ngase ngiphinde ngiyabheka ngibheke efastelini ngoba ibathroom inefastela elilodwa eliblurred.
Okay. When I got into the bathroom, I remained there standing. I was standing on my feet, and I then looked to the bathroom window because the bathroom has got one blurry window.
Yes, where is the window? Are you able to show it on such plan?
The window is between the toilet and Lila.
It's between the toilet. It's here.
Between the toilet and the bathtub.
Liphakathi-ke kwe-toilet kanye futhi-ke nebhavu lena yogezela.
Futhi mawungena ngomnyango.
Sorry to interject, Mr. Gordon is on our way. We cannot see the sketch plan as it's been pointed out. That's all.
So nanti fastela lase bathroom.
And this is the bathroom window.
So noma kuthiwa uza ngapha uzongena e-kitchen kanje udlula kulona leli fastela lase bathroom.
Even if it is that you are coming from this way, from this direction as the witness is pointing, going towards the kitchen door, you'll have to walk past the bathroom window.
Yes.
And then mangisambe kanjalo ngacabanga ukuthi hey njoba sengizwe ekhala isibhamu kanje, what if lo muntu uzofika aphumele ngaphandle ayongidubula from ngaphandle.
And then I thought to myself, now that the firearm has went off, what if this person now goes to the outside and go and shoot me from the outside?
And then ngase ngiyaguqa ngamadolo abona ukusquatter kanje. Ngase ngiyasquatter kanje khona ebathroom.
I then went down and knelt on my knees. You see, it's like squatting. I then squatted in the bathroom trying to take cover.
And then ngizwa isibhamu futhi siqhuma.
I then heard the firearm going off again.
And then sase siyakhala futhi isibhamu.
The firearm went off again.
For the how many times?
For the third time.
August 2.
And at which place?
Still coming from a kitchen.
Still from the kitchen.
And then kuthe ukuthi makusho mase sikhala ukugcina asikhalanga ukufana namanye the other times bese ngizwile.
When it went off for the last time, it was not the same as the previous occasions that I have heard when I heard the firearm going off.
When you say it was not like the others, what was the difference?
Sound.
The sound?
Isound yayenza ayisho ukuthi phanje njengalezi bese ngizwile phambilini. Lesogcina kongathi sithi
it was not like as in pa as it previously, but this sound was like in a doof sound.
Kwathi mase kusenjalo ngizwe ngathi kuyathuleka kancane emva ukuthi ngizwe leso sibhamu sikhala.
Okay, whilst there that, and then I heard that it was quiet a bit after I heard that gun sound.
Ngase ngiyazama ukuthi ngireach for ihandle yomnyango bese ngiyapopola nakhona ngipopola from ekhoneni phansi bathroom.
I then tried to reach for the door handle so as just to peep, and as I was peeping I was doing that from a corner, and then I was down sort of or I was still in that squatting position peeping.
Still kneeling on your knees.
Squatting, yes.
Are you able, if you say you were peeping, just explain what you mean?
Uma uthi ke upopola.
Ngangivula umnyango kanje mhlambe nginganibonisa from here.
Yes.
Ngangivula umnyango ngangisiphathe kanje from Nandos and then ngipopola from.
The witness is indicating she's going down in the witness dock, my lord, and just peeping through the corner of this witness dock.
That she went completely out of my sight. Maybe if she goes further, just for me to see. Yes, right there.
So
When the door was opening, the inside.
I think the witness can just use that door and quick through them.
Why are you hiding her from me?
Can I show you this side, Judge? Can I see this side, please?
No, but no, I think they want to see. Will you see from there? I think even if you will have to repeat, if you start where you were when you were showing me.
If you are in the house, this is the bathroom.
yeah, and then now we like to in the sink and now we put on the yakwazi ukwenzakala ngikharado ukuya kuyofika
When you open, there is the sink, the witness pointing directly to the right-hand side, and then when you open the door, you are able to peep or to see from the dining room from the passage to the dining room, my lord.
Thank you. So if you can just show there on the sketch in which direction you pick.
so mina ngangila njengoba ubona ukuthi ibasin le
As you can see that this is the basin. I was
so ngangikuleli corner
at this corner.
and then mangipopola from la uyakwazi ukubona ukuthi kwenzakalani la kuze kuyofika i-dining room yonkana. The only thing ungayiboni ikhishi.
Okay. When you peep through, that is now through the door or where the witness has indicated the basin, you are able to see that is now the passage up until to the dining room. The only thing that you are unable to see or where you are not able to see is in the kitchen.
Okay. So from the bathroom, the kitchen is positioned in between.
Yes, kuno donga all divide ikhishi ne-bathroom.
There is a wall that separates the kitchen as well as the bathroom.
All right.
And what would you say, what is the distance between the bathroom door and the dining room?
Ibanga ke phakathi kwesigaba lesi sase bathroom kanye ne dining room.
Ama-measurements angengikwazi futhi I don't think ukuthi ngaba as accurate, but mhlambe ngakwazi uku-estimate from ukuthi mangila mhlambe i-dining room ikuloya bhuti lo mhlongo lapha.
Okay, I won't be able, with regards to measurements, I don't think I'll be accurate. But from where I'm seated, it will be up to the gentleman, the gentleman just behind Mr. Advocate Baloyi.
Exactly where alahleli khona.
Exactly where the gentleman is seated behind Advocate Baloyi.
Singathi uqala ku-dining room kuyala.
Would say that will be the start of the dining room going that side.
Will somebody measure that for us?
No, stop.
approximately 5 meters.
Thank you.
I'm told that there is lack of clarity with the order. In the order, I ordered that no beaming of images of the witness is allowed, and I ordered that prohibition against beaming will remain in place until the finalization of the case. But then later I was told that there is no clarity. And all it means is that there shall not be beaming or broadcasting of images of the witness over time when she will be testifying and beyond, in the sense that that prohibition will remain in place until this case is finalized. I don't know if there is still lack of clarity around that.
My Lord, I'm not sure of the source of the confusion. We were crystal clear.
No, there's no confusion, there's lack of clarity.
That clarity was crystal in our minds, madam.
Yeah,
We were crystal clear.
The inquiry came from members of the media, my lord.
okay.
Yes, thank you. Khumalo, we want to show you photo 21. When we adjourned yesterday, you gave an estimation of the distance between the bathroom door in which you sought refuge to the beginning of the dining room. And you estimated the distance to be about 5 meters.
It is indeed so.
Yes, we just want to show you photo 21 of Exhibit B. My lord, it's on page 34 of the bundle. Yes, what is your comment regarding this photo?
So mina ngangila yabona ukuthi umnyango mawuvuleka uvulekela ngaphakathi.
Now, this is the point that I was at, as pointed out by the witness. One can also see that the depiction of the door is that it opens to the inside. It does appear that the witness shows the doorpost of the door. On the picture, it is on the left, which is, again, close to the picture, it is bottom left of the post.
Yes, and if we can just put it on record, what is the point where the light is now shown?
So la kune basin, and then kunesikhala nje esincane la ungakhona nakhona umnyango mawuvalile mina ngiyalingana khona.
Now, just behind that post, there's a basin. There's a basin behind that post, and then there's a beginning of a bathtub. And then between the basin and the bathtub, there's a space that when a person attempts to close the door, they will be able, or rather myself, I will be able to close the door based on my physique.
Yes, but
So ila engangiskwate khona ke ngilindile.
That is the very spot where I had crouched at or squatted at as I was waiting.
if photo 22 can be shown. Just take it up a little bit. Yes, what is your comment regarding this photo?
Ikhona impela la ngangime khona phakathi ne base ne bathtub.
This is the exact spot where I had stood at, between the base and as well as the bathtub.
Okay, can you just show this spot?
What is that in a reference?
Indawo eyodwa,
That very spot that has been shown now, it is the spot where I had stood at. And the light was moving from one end of the basin to the end of the bathtub, or the beginning of the bathtub.
If photo 25 can be shown. What is your comment regarding this photo?
leli fastera ilona ke leli engathi ngalibheka ngacabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe mangathiwa isigebengu siyadlula la or siyaphuma sizongibona mhlawumbe isilhouette ngini, so yikho ngaze ngasikwatha.
Now, this is the very window that I thought that if a criminal were to walk past that particular window and sees me standing, that could mean the undesirable for me. That is why I decided to crouch, so that in case one suspect or a criminal happened to be there, shouldn't see me.
Thank you. You may then continue.
And then kwathi masekusenjalo ngavula umnyango kancane
While at that, I then slightly opened the door and I peeped.
If we can go back to photo 21 of Exhibit B, that's on page 34. Yes, if you can just give your evidence using that photo 21.
so ngathi mase ngilapha phambi kwebasin la engime khona, and then ngase ngiyawuvula kumnyango lo, but nakhona ngawuvula kancane ukuthi at least ngikhiphe ikhanda nje ngipopola ukuthi kwenzakalani.
Now, while I was at that spot, as shown on the photo, I then slightly opened the door with an effort, an attempt to peek or peep through that door. I only protruded the head.
On which side of that photo would the dining room be?
I-dining room iya ngapha kusho ukuthi u-left njengoba ngibheka isithombe, kodwa uma ngingaphakathi mina iya kwa-right.
Yes. As I'm looking at the picture depicted here, the dining room would be on the left-hand side of the picture as we're looking at the picture. But given the fact that I was inside of the bathroom or in the door there, then it would mean that it would be on my right.
Yes, you may proceed. Your evidence.
And then ngase ngithi ngiyapopola kanjalo ngabona uSenzo ephuma ngasekitchen.
As I was sleeping like that, I saw Senzo coming from the kitchen.
Just a minute. If the sketch plan can be shown, that's Exhibit B, page 20. What would you say the distance is between the bathroom door and the kitchen, the entrance to the kitchen?
Hey, incane kakhulu noma ngingazi the exact number, kodwa kufishane kakhulu.
It's a very short distance. I cannot necessarily give an exact distance, but it is very short.
Are you more or less able to indicate the distance by showing from the witness stand to a certain point?
Yeah, that's okay.
Mhlawumbe ukusuka la ngime khona, mhlawumbe ukufika lapha eqaleni kwestand se-television.
Proximity could be from where I am seated up to the far corner of that TV stand.
Approximately 2 meters. 2 meters. We are all agreed with my learned friends that it's about 2 meters. Yes, you may continue.
And then uSenzo mayiphuma ehamba ngokusheshsha ebeka izandla la isifubeni ekhokhoba eyoyifihla phakathi naphakathi kosofa lo ngangihleli kuwona.
Now, Senzo, as he was walking out of the kitchen, he held his arms on his torso, on the front part of the body, whilst also crouching like that. The witness tried to demonstrate that Senzo was also bent forward while holding that part of the body, that is the front part of the body, and then he went to hide himself between the couches where I was seated initially.
He did what himself?
He went to hide himself between the couches where I had initially seated.
Do you remember how the deceased was clad on the day in question?
Ngiyakhumbula wayefake ijini blue.
I remember, yes, he was wearing a pair of blue jeans and a white t-shirt
namateka amhlophe.
and a white pair of sneakers or tekis.
Can you explain again? You said he had a white t-shirt.
A t-shirt amhlophe, amajina blue.
Wayefake isikipa esimhlophe nejini blue namateka amhlophe.
Yes, he was clad in a white t-shirt, a blue pair of jeans, and as well as a white pair of tekis.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you photo 65 of Exhibit B. It appears on page 64 of the bundle. Hello. If you can give your evidence using the photo.
Wafika kuSenzo wagijima wadlula usofa lo wafike waguqala ngamadolo.
Now, Senzo came and he ran past that sofa or the couch, and he knelt at that very spot where the line had or the light has been shown, just next to that couch.
Stand.
He knelt down, and it's between the couch and the stand, the TV stand. He knelt on his knees at that very spot.
And then emva kwakhe kanjalo ngisasekhona khona ibathroom kanjalo kwalandela uKelly and then kwalandela uma kwase kulandela ususpect number 1.
Now, behind him, while I was still in the bathroom, came Kelly, then my mother, and then the suspect of that.
Uqala lo amathreats.
Yes, the first suspect, or the first intruder, the one who had dreadlocks on his head.
And then uKelly wafike wamake emva kaSenzo usenze ngaphambili yena ngemuva uma wafike nje wamalanga sesofeni.
Now, Kelly came and stood behind Senzo. Senzo was in front, then Kelly, and then the mother behind. And my mother then came and stood at that point that has been shown by the light on that photo number 65 there.
Yes.
And the first intruder, because you said in that row there was also the first intruder.
Gantilo umgenele uqala, intruder yokuqala. Yena ube kuphi?
Yena wafike futhi uma kwathi mayifika la. And then wafike wathatha ifoni eyayicharge. Angisakhumbula noma ifoni yayiphezulu kwestand noma yayiphezulu kusofa. Wafike wayithatha ifoni and then i-intruder yafike yabona ukuthi uma uphethe ifoni ngesandla yafike yamshaya eswini ngendololwane uma wayiyeka ifoni wahlala phansi. So i-intruder ayisamwela ayiceleni.
Yeah, where the light has been shown, this is where more or less the intruder was.
Yeah,
The light
Can you
was,
point again?
I'll call the foot lapel. This is where the intruder was. And witness continued to relate that there was a phone that was on the armrest. I am uncertain. It could have been on the armrest of the couch or perhaps on that TV stand. Then my mother took that phone because it was charging. My mother took the phone, and then that's when that intruder saw that she has taken the phone or that she is in possession of the phone now. And the intruder hit her with the elbow. That's when she then fell onto the sofa, or rather, actually hit, or that she was hit with the elbow on the abdomen. While that was herself. Then she fell onto the sofa.
Where? Can you just
Go bigger.
On this sofa here.
That is the first seat of that sofa, as depicted or shown by that light.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then you suspect number one was a touchy phone a and then was a home.
Now, this first suspect or intruder then snatched off the cell phone from my mother, and then he walked out.
Ngaleso sikhathi uKelly wayejeke uSenzo ngamadolo from lapha ekhoneni.
Now, during the time, Kelly had lifted or supported Senzo with her knees, right there at that spot. A simple spot?
Part no sofa stand. Like
At the very same spot where he had knelt at, which is now between the sofa as well as the TV stand.
And then my to touch phone ke first suspect wajika wahambe ngathi uya ekitchen.
Now, after he had taken the cell phone, and I should mention that the witness, while testifying like that, there is a light that is being shown at that very spot, estimated to have been the initial spot where the suspect was. After he had taken that cell phone, he then turned around and walked as though he was going to the kitchen.
Yeah.
Witness is just taking a sip of water.
And then bakusesenjalo ngabona ukuthi uza nganeno ngacabanga ukuthi mhlawumbe uzongibona ngase ngiyawuvala futhi umnyango.
Now, whilst at that, I presume that he was coming towards me, or towards the spot where I was. I then closed the door, thinking that he may have thought that I am seeing him. I then closed that door.
And where were you at that stage?
I was still in the bathroom, same spot. And then ngithe mase nguvula futhi umnyango sengithi ngiyagogola futhi ngibona ukuthi uphelile ngoba bese ngizwe ngathi kunesikhashana esincane engafiki la ngikhona. Ngase ngiyagogola ngathola ukuthi usehambile.
Now, then I made another attempt to open and to peep through the door again, because there was just an interval of silence, which I had thought that perhaps he could be gone because it was now quiet. And I then looked, and I couldn't see him. He had already vacated the house.
And are you able to tell the court as to how was the visibility at that stage?
The lights of the house were on, so it was visible in the house. I then walked out of the bathroom. I turned my head to look or observe in the kitchen. I then realized that there was no one. I then proceeded to where my mom, Kelly, and Senzo were at.
And then
I then inquired what happened.
The court will just be inquired as to what happened and a report was made to you, is that correct?
Yes.
That is correct. Should I interpret what you had said?
No.
Oh.
Yes. The report is made, and then what happened?
And then
before that, you were given a report to the effect that Senzo got shot, but who gave the report?
What's this one, Kelly?
It was Kelly that gave me that report.
Yes.
Was it?
And
Yes.
then next,
What were your own observations?
When Bonelli,
nami ngithe mangibheka phansi ngalibona igazi naye ngabona ukuthi kubomvu la esikipeni.
now also when I observed as well down, when I looked down, I saw the blood. And I also saw the stain of the blood. And again, the witness is showing the abdominal area of the torso.
Naye futhi uSenzo ngaleso sikhathi umbona ukuthi uzama ukuphefumula kodwa ngathi kunzima.
Now, even Senzo himself during the time, one could see that he was trying to breathe, but that it was difficult. There's also a demonstration with the hands of the witness, the up and down movement, as in breathing in, breathing out.
Yes?
Yes, you may proceed.
Ngase ngikhumbula ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi mabengena la endlini mabethi bafuna i-cellphone nesibhamu ngathatha ifoni yami ngayifihla emva kwe-cushion.
Now, I then remembered that at the time they intruded the house, they said they wanted a cell phone, the cell phone, no, my cell phones.
They said they wanted my cell phone.
Oh, they said they wanted cell phones and the firearm. And
So,
then cell phone and the
Nemali.
oh, and money. Sorry. They said they wanted the cell phone and the money. Given that thought, I then took my cell phone and hid it behind or under the cushion.
Under the what?
Cushion. Under the cushion, my lord.
Okay.
That is now at the point when a demand was made for cell phones and money.
Yes, it was at that point when the demand was made for cell phones and money.
Can you just show using this photo again?
Before that, by the way, by now you have brought us, it is after your mom, Senzo Kelly, had converged there with Senzo on Kelly's lap.
Yeah.
Is that when you hid the cell phone, or did you hide it before you ran into the bathroom?
Ngayifihla ulantoze mayithi ufuna imali nama-cellphone ngayifihla-ke ngaleso sikhathi. So mase ngibuya-ke bese kuwukuthi sengiyakhumbula ukuthi konje ngiyifihle lapho ngase ngiyoyilandana.
I actually hid the cell phone at the time that such items were demanded. The cell phone and the money was demanded. It was at that very time that I hid the cell phone. Then I remembered that I did hide that particular cell phone. During that time, I went to the cushion where I had hidden the cell phone at, while we talked. That I took my cell phone.
Can you just, using this photo 65, indicate maybe photo 64, indicate where you hid your cell phone?
Ngayifihla phakathi kosofa ne-cushion la ngaphakathi. Khona isikhala ngithi siba lapho phakathi. Ngase ngifaka nje lapho.
I just hid it right there. A light was shown on perhaps
Ilanga ngihleli khona.
that is the very same spot where I had seated. The depiction of the picture shows about 1, 2, 3 seats. The middle seat.
So you hid it. Was the cushion an add-on onto the couch, or was it a cushion that is readily part and parcel of the couch?
I guess yes. I-cushion le bekuyi-cushion nje ongakwazi ukuthi uyilethe uyibeke nje lapho okanye i-cushion ekuyingxenye yesihlalo.
I-cushion ihlala la vele kodwa ayisingxenye yesofa ungayisusa uyibeke.
Your Lordship, this cushion is actually a loose cushion. In other words, one can just add it as and when they need to.
Yes.
And before Your Lordship, the court sought clarity, the witness indicated that between that cushion and the sofa, underneath the cushion, that is where the cell phone was hidden, because there is a space between that cushion, underneath the cushion, and the sofa. That's where it was hidden. And the very spot that was reflected, it is the middle spot of the 3-seater couch. And she indicated that that was where she was seated initially.
There are in fact other cushions on that couch.
Yes.
Yes, you may proceed.
So Tubeka.
Ngase ngiyayithatha ke ifoni yami mangithi ngiyadayela nakhona ngoba ngase ngithukile. Angizange kwazi ukukhumbula number.
Now, I took my cell phone. Given the fact that I was shocked or nervous during that time, I couldn't even recall a number that I could punch into the cell phone.
Yes.
Now, which number did you want to punch in the cell phone?
I wanted to phone call 10,111 number. But I had a mental, or my mind got frozen.
Mental block.
Mental block, my lord. Thank you so much. I couldn't even think of it.
Yes.
And just for record purposes, which number is that number that you mentioned? 10,111. Which place is it?
It's 10,111 in number.
The number of the police.
That is the police's number or call center number.
Yes.
Yebo.
Yes.
And then makusenjalo nami ke ngifrantic kanjalo ngase ngiyaphuma ngathi ngiyofuna usizo.
Now, whilst at that, and I was as frantic as I was, I thought to myself that I should go search for help or look for help.
Yes.
Yeah, just before we step off this aspect, the cell phone that was taken by the first suspect, whose cell phone is it?
Kwakuyifoni kaKelly ayicharger angisakhumbuli noma yaphezulu kwestand noma yaphezulu kwesofa kodwa kwakuyi-Samsung S4
Yeah,
emnyama.
that was Kelly's cell phone. I am uncertain about whether it was indeed charging or what. It was a black Samsung
S4.
S4. It was Kelly's.
Yes, you explained that Mr. Tumelo Madala ran in one of the rooms. Did you see what happened to Mr. Mthokozi Zitwala?
Tumele badlala usushilo ukuthi wagijimela kwelinye lamagumbi laphana. Umthokozi Sithwala yena ngabe khona ukuthi izowabona ngayo.
Cha, angimbonanga ukuthi uphume nini endlini ngoba kodwa mangidlula ngiphume ngisuka ngasebathroom ngabona ukuthi indlu nje empty. Angibonanga ukuthi uphume nini.
No, I couldn't witness his exit of the house. I couldn't. Because when I left the initial spot, or the spot where I had hidden myself at, I found that it was empty. He had left also.
Ngase-ke ngiyaphuma endlini ngaphuma ngegate ngaya kwaMaphiri as uMaphiri i-best friend kama.
I then exited the house, exited the gate of the premises of our house, and I proceeded to Mapiri, knowing very well that Mapiri was my mother's friend. Why in Mapiri?
Ngase ngiya kwaMaphiri.
Yes, I went to Mapiri's house.
And where is Mapiri's house located?
Iguphi-ke indlu kaMapiri wasekuqhathaniswa.
Indlu kaMaphiri ingalo komgwaqo kwasekhaya.
It is on the other side of the same street of my home's residence. It is on the other side of the street of our house.
What does that mean? I take it that is the street.
Yeah.
Passing by your mother's house.
Now,
there is the left side, there is the right side, there might be the north or south or the east or west side of the street. What side are you?
uMaphiri ungapha so angeke ngithi direct opposite kodwa nje ngezansi kancane kwasekhaya ngathi opposite kwakube kancane.
The witness is shining the light there on photo number 1, depicting the house of Mapiri being on the opposite side of the opposite side of the houses. I would not necessarily say that it was directly opposite to my mother's house, but I can say that it was diagonally opposite to my mother's house, because it is actually directly opposite with our neighbor, or my mother's house neighbor.
So she stays along the opposite row of houses across the street.
Kanjalo. It is indeed so, Your Lordship.
Okay.
Uhlala kule mugqa wezindlu obhekene-ke nomhuqa wezindlu la indlu kamayi khona.
Now, on that photo one, you earlier pointed out your neighbors. Who are those neighbors?
Kwamakhelwane la kuhlala kukaNgqathi sibongo.
Now, but the name of the neighbor, as pointed here on the picture, it is the Ngqathis.
Can you spell it? Can you spell it for me?
Hey, I'm not sure it's a. Hey, yes, Xhosa.
NG.
Come again.
NG.
Yes.
CA.
Yes.
TSHE. And what is Mapiri's name? I'm sorry.
Now, before that, are these neighbors, the next door neighbors, are you referring to the ones on the left or the right?
Njengoba ngibheka isithombe kanje kuka right.
As I am,
right. Kuka right njengoba ngibheka isithombe la.
as I'm looking at the photo like this, it is on my right hand side.
I can see that, I can see where you are pointing at. You are saying it's on your right, not on the right side of the street.
On the right.
Your Lordship, as I'm seated here,
Yeah.
that would be at my right.
Yeah, but if you were at your mother's house, it will be on the left.
Good job. That would be correct, my Lord. If I am at my mother's house, it will be on my left. Futhi mangapha ekhaya kithi izoba ngakuleft. Futhi makhelwa ngapha ngakuleft.
Just for record purposes, can you just point out your mother's house there?
Na indlu kaMala bese nakho kwaNgqathi kapha right lo ngibheka.
Yeah, the light has been shown on the mother's house and as well as the Ngqathi's house.
Yes.
Yes, you may proceed.
So,
What is the surname of Mapiri?
Mapiri is the name of
Igama uMegi bese sibongo abaphiri.
her name is Maggie and the surname is Piri.
Yes, you may proceed.
So,
Ngase ngiphuma ke endlini ngalelo langa.
I walked out of the house on
ngaphuma
that day.
ngegate ngaya khona kwaMaphiri.
Then I proceeded to Mapiri's house.
Just show on the photo how you went to Mapiri.
Ngaphuma la.
That is the spot that I exited
Maphiri
from.
kumala.
There is sort of a far left exit entrance there, my lord, which is now being pointed out. That is where I exited at. Wayagupin.
Ngase ngiza kwaMaphiri kumala mobheka.
No. Then I walked to Mapiri's house. Now that light, that spot of light, has been shown to move from that opening there, which looks like a gate, and straight down to the bottom left of the picture, my lord.
Was it straight down? I'm also watching. I seemed to see that it was moving diagonally rather than straight.
Angithi manje masibhekile i-opposite kaMaphiri kwaNgqathi, so uMaphiri kusho ukuthi indlu
So
yakhe
it wouldn't
ila.
have been straight down.
Yeah.
It wasn't straight across, it was diagonally across the street.
Your lordship, as it is the question. Yes, it was diagonally linear towards the bottom left of the picture.
Yes.
And then mase ngifika ke kwaMaphiri ngathola ukuthi uMaphiri ubeme nje ngaphandle.
Now, when I got to Mapiri's house, I then found out that she was just standing outside of the house.
Yes.
And then ingane kasisi wakhe uMthabiseni ube ngaphandle menemoto lapho ekhuluma nomuntu.
And then Ntabiseng, who is Mapiri's sister's child, was standing outside with a person, a motorist.
Just a minute.
That, yes. The motorist that she was talking to.
What's the mother? What's the name of the one? Is it Ntabiseng?
Ntabiseng, my lord.
Ntabiseng is, how is she related to Mapiri?
She's the niece.
She's actually the niece in short, my lord. It is Mapiri's sister's child.
Daughter.
Yes, daughter.
Yes.
Do you know Ntabisen's surname?
Yes,
I'm the question, yes.
I'm not sure about ascending.
Yes. Can we indicate on that very same photo where the vehicle was?
Imoto yayima la.
This
Phakathi
is-
naphakathi kwestrati nje.
This is the spot where the vehicle had stopped or had parked, just in the middle of the street there.
Where
And
in
the point that is actually, or the spot that is being shown, it's more towards the right of the picture, right in the middle of the tarred road there.
where in relation to Mapiri's house?
Gopege mause ukhathanisa nento kaMapiri.
Phambi kwegate.
That is in front of the gate of Mapiri's premises.
Here?
Yes, may I proceed?
Ngaqhubeka.
Ngangena ke ngegate ngamemeza uMaphiri ngathi Maphiri fonela i-ambulance noma ufonela amaphoyisa.
I entered Mapiri's premises through the gate and then screamed at her and said, Mapiri, please phone call Mapiri.
Amaphoyisa ne-ambulance.
Please phone call the police and the ambulance as well.
Yes?
Yes, may I proceed?
Wayesethi kwenze njani ngase ngiyamtshela ukuthi kungena igebengu zafike zadobula usenzo waqala waphela ekhafethi.
She then asked me what happened. I related to her that the intruders came into the house and they shot at Senzo. That's when she started panicking after I related that with her.
Yes?
Yes, may I proceed?
Ngalokho ngiphindaphinda ngithi fona Maphiri fonela amaphoyisa. Wathi hayi angeke ngikhone wamemeza uMthabiseng wathi angisakwazi ucabanga wamemeza uMthabiseng wayesegeyidini.
Now, I repeatedly requested her to phone call or urged her to phone call the ambulance, and she said that she can't think straight now at this stage. She then called Nthabiseng.
Yes?
May I proceed?
Wayeseke emtshela ukuthi fona Nthabiseng fonela amaphoyisa noma ufonele ambulance. Wathi uNthabiseng naye kwenzakaleni wayesethi ukudutshule kusenzo lapha endlini.
She then said to her,
Khumalo.
instructed her and said that, Nthabiseng, make a phone call now, make a phone call. Phone call the ambulance or phone call the police. Then Nthabiseng inquired, what happened? She then said that Senzo had been shot over there.
State will be possibly calling these witnesses. May that evidence be provisionally allowed? Yes.
And then ke makusenjalo naye wakhala wathwala izandla ekhanda, and then ngabona ukuthi hayi kusho ukuthi usizo luzofika kudala la ngabashiya kanjalo ngehla ngabuyela endlini.
Once at that, she also was screaming, she went hysterical, put her hands on the head. And then I realized that given these circumstances, one is not going to be able to get any help. I
Ngase ngibuyele ekhaya.
then went back home.
So you sensed futility of your efforts even before Nthabiseng made the calls?
When uvele wabona ukuthi kuyize lo, naphambi kokuthi afone uNthabiseng.
Ngaphambi kwamasa ngafona uNthabiseng.
Not in
Bava
front of
bathwala
me, she
izandla
didn't
ekhanda
even phone
wakhala.
call. She just put her hands on the head, went hysterical, crying. She didn't make any phone call.
You left because you sensed that these people shall not assist in the manner you were requesting, not because they don't want to, because they came into a state emotionally which you considered to be not allowing of a situation where they would help you.
It is indeed so, my lord.
Yes?
Yes, may I proceed?
Ngase ngiyabuya ke ngize ekhaya ngase ngena futhi ngesango. Uma ngena ngesango ngabona bemthatha bezozama umfa emotweni.
I went back home, walked into the yard through the gate. That's when I witnessed them making efforts and attempts to take him into the vehicle. They made efforts to put him into the vehicle.
Who were making attempts to put him in the vehicle?
Mangizama ukukhumbula kahle ngabona ukhaya oyindodana yokuqala kababa Ncathe noma Ncathe.
Now, if my memory serves me well, I saw Kaya, who is the first son to the Ncathes family, that is Mr. and Mrs. Ncathe.
And then ngabona ubaba Ncathe naye.
I also saw Mr. Ncathe.
Nabanye babe khona kodwa ngisakhumbula kahle ukuthi ubani wayekubani uphi kanjani.
There were some people also in that scene, even though I cannot be particular about who was who and where were they at exactly, but during that time there were some people there.
I just want to show you photo 3 and 4 of Exhibit B that appears on page 22 of the bundle. You can just use that photo to illustrate your evidence.
So mina ngase ngithi ngena ngegate la ngegate and then bona babe mala.
Now, as I walked into the yard through that gate, this is where they were at. There is a spot on the picture right of the vehicle that is on the right hand side of the vehicle that is depicted on that picture there. Almost halfway through some distance of the wall of the house, towards the halfway through the wall of the house. That's where the light is showing.
There's a vehicle on the picture there. Whose vehicle is that?
Imoto kaSenzo.
That is Senzo's vehicle.
Yes, you may proceed.
So I took that.
And then ngase
Let me find out. We have had other witnesses, and the impression I was given was that it is Senzo's vehicle that was used to ferry him to hospital. Now you are showing me that picture number, that photo number. Is it 3? What?
It's photo 3 of Exhibit B, my lord.
Yes. Now you are showing me photo number 3 with the vehicle, which you again say that it's Senzo's vehicle. So this is not the vehicle as Senzo parked it. What you are showing us, it is the vehicle as whoever parked it after it had ferried Senzo to hospital.
Manje ngoba sibona la ibingekho ngalendlela le moto le ngekathi izohambisa mhlambe uSenzo mhlambe lana isime njena emva ukuthi ihambise uSenzo esibhedlela.
ukuthi anginalo ulwazi lokuthi lesi sithombe sithathwe nini kodwa njalo nje masifike ekhaya sifike sipake kanje.
I do not have any knowledge as to who actually took this photograph, but that is a routine of us that when we get to the house, to the parental house, that's how we park.
And sometimes kuya phambili or sifake ngapha kwa right kodwa ngalolu suku mina mangingena ngegate safike sapaka.
At times it would be parked deeper into the yard, straight down, or onto the right hand side of the picture as depicted here, my lord. But on that day in question, the vehicle was parked to the children.
I'm asking you because we already have evidence to the effect that police officers whose duty it is to attend crime scenes came to attend and generated the exhibits that we are privy to now. And you are explaining, unless I'm jumping the gun, you're explaining that they put Senzo, or they got Senzo into that vehicle, and it is his vehicle, which would mean to me, subject to correction, that that photo would have been taken after Senzo had been taken to hospital. Secondly, I can see from the photo that it was taken in daytime. And what you explained to us entails a situation where indoors you needed lights. I want to presume that even outside.
Ngaphandle kwasekuba mnyama ngaphandle kwasekuba mnyama impela ngoba ngiyakhumbula ukuthi nani light lase next door kwangathi usually lele ngaphandle bayalikhanyisa
ngenkathi wena usungena
so mina mangena nje kwakungemnyama kangaka kodwa nje kwakusebusuku.
Your Lordship, outside it was dark on the day of the incident.
Come again?
Outside it was dark, or it was getting dark.
Okay.
That is on the day of the incident. There were lights that were somehow illuminating the area.
Okay.
That is, for an example, the Ngache's house. There were lights that were mounted at the house of the Ngaches, which were now illuminating or partly illuminating the area.
Can you assist me also? I want to fully understand what I'm looking at. If you are there where the vehicle is, by the look of the photo, one can deduce that the one side would be east and the other side would be west. Now, looking at the photo, how the shadows fall onto the surface, which you can see on the photo, one can deduce that the photo was taken during daytime.
Yes,
and before you answer that, I know that not all of us are very conscious about east, west, south, and you are not forced to answer that question. But I'm saying, for in case, because you are saying it's your mother's house, in case you know, can you put us into light about where is east and where is?
Okokuqala angazi ukuthi isithombe sasithathwe nini.
To start with,
Kodwa
I don't know when was this picture taken.
kodwa uyabona ukuthi kusemini.
One can tell that it is in the day.
But ngikwazi ukuthi imoto mayifika noma yiphi imoto mayifika nje ifika ime khona lapha. Ngawukuthi phambidlana noma isemuva kancane noma umuntu decide ukuyiletha ngapha kuleli side ayikhoqise ngapha noma decide ukufaka.
What I further know is that this is how the vehicle would usually be parked when it gets to the house, or it may be, driven deeper into the yard, straight down into the yard, or one can decide to park the vehicle on the right-hand side, as the witness has now shown, that is behind the wall or the fence that is being shown there.
I didn't help us by asking a question that is too long. My short question is, which is east and which is west? That is the gist of it.
I don't know.
Okay, it's okay.
If we can show you maybe photo 1 and 2 of Exhibit A. Ms. Khumalo, if you can perhaps use this photo 1 of Exhibit A just to show where the vehicle was.
In photo 1 so this is a photo 1. Yeah. Photo 1.
Yes.
And what must he
just show where the vehicle was parked?
This is where the vehicle was parked, and the light is showing between the two posts of the gate, inside of the gate, on the other side of the, just in that vicinity of that coordinating tape.
Yes, you may proceed. You explained that they were trying to put him in the vehicle, and you mentioned the names of those people. What happened further?
Busasitshela-ke ukhuluma ngamagama labantu ababekhona laphayana-ke bese kwenza kanani?
Hayi-ke ngase ngiyaqhubeka-ke ngabona ukuthi mina kube zama ukumfaka emotweni ngavula umnyango wangaphambili wemoto kwa left.
Now, given the fact that I observed they were trying to help him into the vehicle, I then proceeded to the left door of the vehicle. That is the left passenger door. I opened that left passenger door of the vehicle.
So is it front or rear?
Left front.
Yes.
So before ngizovula ke lo mnyango lo ngaphambili khona wayephambi kwami ngisakhumbula kodwa ukuthi kwakubani. So ngamdlula ngayovula lo mnyango wasengena phakathi emotweni and then ngase nginqamulela phakathi kwemoto phakathi naphakathi kwezihlalo.
Now, I cannot recall who was the person in front of me or next to me at the time that I was proceeding towards the left front passenger door. I walked past that person, opened the left front door of the vehicle. I then got into the vehicle. I then maneuvered myself inside of the vehicle, past the seats.
What did you say?
Oh.
She maneuvered herself
Past the seats inside of the vehicle, my lord. The witness had not yet finished as to what was her attempt or what was she attempting. Uyasho ukuthi waseke uyadlula ihlalo nje ngalapho.
Ngadlula ke ihlalo lezo ngoba iminyango wangemuva kwa right bese bewuvulile bezama ukumfaka phakathi. Mina ke mengena ke emotweni ngase ngimibamba la ngaphansi kwamahlombe ngezama ukumphulela ukumdonsela ngaphakathi.
The purpose was that, given the fact that, my lord, the rear right door of the vehicle was already opened, and they were trying to load him into the vehicle, I then maneuvered myself past the seats to the back and held him from behind, underneath. The witness was just now demonstrating that her arms were sort of under the armpits or under the arms of the person that they were trying to load into the vehicle, to try and pull him into the vehicle as well.
You went to the right side of the vehicle. The rear left door was open.
Left front, you went to the left front.
She went to the
Yeah,
left.
but how was the rear left door? Was it open or closed?
It was closed.
It was closed, my lord.
Okay, and you passed it.
Also,
You went and opened the front left door, which is the passenger door.
kunjalo.
Kunjalo ngoba kwakunomuntu wayephambili angisakhumbula ukuthi ubani wayelapho lo kulesi sihlalo sankulo mnyango wangemuva
Emnyango
ngaphandle ngaphandle.
Yes, my lord. There was a person that was standing outside at the left rear door. It is that person that I've referred to, the person that was in front of me. I walked past them because they were standing right at the left rear door, and then I proceeded to the left front door, which is the passenger door.
And then you embarked onto the vehicle.
That's correct, my lord.
And you're speaking of maneuvering. In other words, you were at the front, in the area where the front seat is, and you did not position yourself to face forward.
Ngasuka la ngangene khona ngase ngiyanqamulela ngaya emuva ngomzimba wonke ngangena emuva.
In essence, my lord,
Ngisuka phambili.
I went into the vehicle. As I embarked the vehicle, my intention was not to sit there.
Yeah.
I then maneuvered myself or bypassed others' seats so that I can go at the front or go to the to the back seat, so that I can go to the back seat.
Mr. Baloy, is there any picture showing the inside of the vehicle?
No, my lord, we're just trying to show the picture that was on the screen. This photo 3 of exhibit B, my lord, on page 22. If you can maybe just use the photos just for illustration purposes.
Photo 3.
Yes. Of Exhibit B.
Yeah, remember I'm now inquiring into what she's outlining about what happened once she had embarked
Yes.
into the vehicle.
Yes.
Because we know that the front seats are opposite each other. There might be, depending on the make of the vehicle, there might be a space in between the seats. And you are saying once inside the vehicle, you didn't face forward. You, in other words, you were facing backward onto the area of the back seat.
kulesihlalo esingasemuva.
Ngingenile ngeqa iarmrest ngomzimba wami wonke ngahamba ngayimuva ngomzimba wami wonke ngayimuva.
I got into the vehicle and then jumped over the armrest with my entire body
Okay.
displaced into the back of the vehicle, or that is the back seat of the vehicle.
Okay, now I understand. Okay.
Yes, you may continue.
So I took it up.
And then kwase kuthi sengingaphakathi ngambamba la ngaphansi kwamakhwapha ngase ngimdonsela ngaphakathi.
When I was inside there at the back, I then held him in his armpit or underneath his arms and then pulled him into the vehicle.
So you received Senzo from inside, whilst the others were placing him inside the vehicle from outside.
Good job. Should
Kunjalo.
we not?
Kunjalo.
It is indeed so, my lord.
Yes?
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke ngabona ukuthi nenyawo futhi zasasele ngaphandle umnyango ungavaleki ngase ngidonsa ke inyawo lezo ngase ngiyameqa ngayohlala ngase ngako right wesicaba.
I then realized that the legs were protruding to the outside of the vehicle. I pulled them back into the vehicle and then jumped over him or went to the farthest end, which is the right hand side of that rear seat, to go and sit there.
On which side of the rear seat did you end up?
On the right hand side of the rear seat, my lord.
And then ke engikhumbula ukuthi uKelly wayedriver wangena ngale ku driver seat.
What I also recall is that Kelly was the one that was driving the vehicle, so she embarked the vehicle on the driver's seat. Kelly.
Okay, can you explain to me, you are there on the rear seat on the right side? I would presume you mean the far right side of the rear seat. And earlier on you spoke about drawing Senzo's feet inward. Now if we think of the make of a vehicle, there will be the rear seat and there will be leg space there at the rear. And when you say you drew Senzo's feet inward, did you draw them as far as no longer being on the rear side, on the rear seat, or on the rear part, on the rear right part of the vehicle, or were they still there? Because if you say you sat there, where was his feet then?
Khona mengikhumbula kahle sasimpintshekile impela ngoba ngayidonsa from ngingaphakathi ngayidonsela ngaphakathi ukuthi ihlale la inyawo ihlala khona. Kodwa ke ispace esasingapha ngasemnyango kwa right sasesincane ngempela ngoba ngangihleli ngecele.
Well, honestly speaking, it was the space was quite confined, or was quite confining. We were squeezed in there, inside of the vehicle. Even the space that I am referring to, the space where I sat at, it was so small that I only sat on the side.
And the feet of the deceased, where were they resting?
They were resting. Beziphansi.
They were on the floor.
Kodwa zazisondele kakhulu ngakumina.
Though they were on the floor, the inclination of their feet were on my side.
And his torso?
Umzimba ke?
Umzimba wawungemuva nje ulele kanjalo.
Udlaleke. The torso was on the remaining part of the rear seat, my lord.
Yes?
You mentioned that your sister Kelly Khumalo occupied the driver's seat. Were there any other occupants in the vehicle?
Yebo, emotweni kwakukhona uTumelo.
Yes,
kuphinde
there
kube
were
khona
other occupants. There were other occupants. There was also Tumelo,
kuphinde kube khona uMthokozisi.
and then there was Mthokozisi.
Noma ngeke ngikhumbule ukuthi sasihleli silandelana kanjani kodwa sasikhona sonke emotweni.
Even though I cannot tell the positioning of our occupation or occupancy of the vehicle, but what I can recall is that we were all occupants in that vehicle.
And then ke kwakukhona ithawula ababelisebenzisa elalincanyana nje li light blue mhlambe isiqeshoni esingaka sethawula angazi noma ngathi hand towel noma yini esasetshenziswa ukuthi babesibekela ke esifubeni.
Now there was a little towel. I'm not sure as to whether it would be safe to say that it was a hand towel that was being used to put or to dress the front portion, and the witness has just pointed on the front portion of the torso, just in the vicinity of the abdomen and perhaps the thoracic region.
Yes, and what was the purpose thereof?
Mina ngathola sebelibekile vele ithawula bebeka ukuthi kube ne pressure esifubeni.
I found that the towel had already been placed there, just to compress or to give some compression of the chest with it.
Yes?
Did you see whether the deceased was bleeding or not from the wound?
Ngabona khona ubopha kodwa kwakungekuningi kakhulu kwakungekuningi.
Well, I did witness that the deceased was bleeding, albeit not profusely, but I did witness that the deceased was bleeding.
And then ke njengoba sasilapha ngaphakathi sasilokhu sishintshana ke ukusiza ukuthi sibeke pressure embobeni le yayilapha.
Now, all of us who were occupying that vehicle, we were taking turns to compress on the wound. That is where, the towel was.
Yes?
Yep.
And then ke ukhelwa driver futhi driver egijima.
Now, Kelly was driving, and she was driving at a high speed.
Yes?
Yes, Mvusi.
And then while isamsiza kanjalo uSenzo mase sofika ngase emarobhothini asebuthilong ngoba ngangembambile ngibeka isandla futhi la ithawula lalikhona.
Now we drove up to the point in the vicinity of the Butsilong as we were driving like that, because my hand was right at that particular area where where he was bleeding. My hand was placed on that area. Andifike Butsilong.
Ngangiphinde futhi ngimthinte nasebusweni ngithi Senzo vula amehlo, Senzo vula amehlo sesiyafika esibhedlela.
And I also kept on touching his face, or perhaps shaking his face and saying that, Senzo, stay alive, wake up or rather, keep your eyes opened. We are just about to arrive at the hospital. Lordship, the witness is getting emotional now.
Do you want a comfort break?
To be careful, Daniel.
No, let's, maybe we can just take a 5 minutes comfort break.
Yeah.
Yes, we may proceed.
And then ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwesinye isikhathi sakhona lapho ngangibeka isandla ngasesiswini kanje ngamuza ukuthi uyaqala uyabanda.
Now, I remember during those attempts, I placed my hand on the abdominal area, and I could tell that the body temperature was now decreasing.
Yes?
Yeah, perhaps just put it in simple terms. If you say the body temperature was decreasing, what does it mean?
She's a bit
Ukufudumala kwakhe kungasafani. Ngoba ngangibambe ngala ngaphezulu ngiphinde ngibambe ngala ngezansi kungasafani.
There were varying body temperatures on the same body. I had placed my hand on the lower abdominal area, and the other one on top, that is on the Lordship, there's on the chest, just on the manubrium area.
The what area?
On the chest area, just below the throat or the thorax. There was a demonstration, my lord. Perhaps it will assist, because perhaps you can say this was the other hand was on the clavicle, or the collarbone, and another one was on the sort of lower abdominal area. And then the witness indicates that that's when she realizes that the body temperatures are varying, are not the same.
And then seqaka ama robots lawo sawungena esibhedlela.
We then drove past the robots and entered the hospital.
Yes?
Yeah.
Masifika ke lapha ku security wathi security assign sathi asikwazi ukusayina kuyaphuthuma.
When we got there, the security guard then said that we should sign in. We then said to him, no, we cannot sign in. This is emergent.
And then yahamba ke imoto yayoma ngase reception kanje noma ngase reception ngaphandle kwesibhedlela ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwakubhalwe emergency phezulu.
The vehicle then drove up to that spot where there was a writing emergency. I should think it was a reception area of the emergency section.
And then mayisiqeda ukuma imoto lapho ngavula umnyango ngoba vele ngangihleli ifasitereni lapho.
Now, after the vehicle had stopped, I then opened the door because I was seated at the right rear seat that is just next to the window of the vehicle.
The place where you drove to, is it a designated emergency zone, or did you just go because it was written emergency? In other words, what is it a place where they have also indicated on the surface which they indicated as an emergency zone, or was it just maybe a neon sign indicating an emergency?
Sapaka lapha ngoba kwakuno emergency phezulu owawukhanya. So ngingazi noma indawo yakhona ngempela emergency noma emergency wakhona useceleni angazi, kodwa sabona nje ibhodi elibhalwe emergency sama khona lapho ngase ngiyangena ke mina qha.
Okay, ningacapheli ukuthi mhlambe kune parking.
Ngizanginake.
Yes, Your Lordship, there was indeed that neon emergency sign. We drove to that sign, or to the immediate vicinity of that sign, just because we have seen that sign, my lord. We did not observe as to whether was there emergency parking or a designated area, therefore emergency parking, my lord.
Okay.
Yes, you may proceed. So you opened the door.
Ngavula kumnyango ngaphuma ngigijima nakhona.
I opened the door and I lighted the vehicle, running at that.
And then ngangena ngaphakathi ngathola kwakukhona usisi wayese reception.
I walked into the building and I found a lady there at the reception area.
Nabanye nje ababemile nje lapho.
And there were also other bystanders there, people that were just standing there.
And then ngafika ngamemeza ngathi ngicela usizo.
I then screamed and I said that, can I receive help? Can I receive help?
Basondela ke kumina.
And then
ngayobabonisa imoto la sidinga usizo khona.
They approached me and then I led them to the vehicle where such help was needed at.
And then abanye bakhona babelandela nombhede lo stretch.
And some of them came with a stretcher.
Yes.
And then masifika ke bona aba take over before bamthatha ke bamzama ukumkhipha emotweni thina sesimele eceleni.
And upon their arrival, right at the, where the vehicle was, they were the very people that took him. They were trying to take him and put him onto the stretcher, and we were just standing aside.
Yes.
Ngiyakhumbula ukuthi ngaleso sikhathi mina noKelly sasibambene sihagana sikamfathana ngaleso sikhathi.
I remember during the time myself and Kelly, we were hugging each other, embracing each other, comforting each other.
Base bayamthatha ke bambeka ku stretcher lesi sinamasondo, then bamthatha bamsa ngaphakathi bamfaka egumbini lani ngaphakathi.
They then took him, placed him onto the stretcher, the roller stretcher, and they pushed him into their premises and placed him into some room in the premises. That is into the building, and they drove him, or rather pushed him into some room in the building.
And then nathi ke salandela ngemuva safike.
We also followed.
And then safika kwe futhi thina sasifuna ukungena ngaphakathi sokwathiwa asikwazi ukungena kodwa khona indawo nje ivulekile inezihlalo eceleni kwathiwa sime lapho.
We followed, and we also wanted to follow them to the very internal areas of that building, and then we were told not to go as far as that, but that there is a designated area for people to sit at. There are seats there.
And then sama ke salinda kuthema salinde kanjalo bese besamxilonga ngaphakathi kwafika uma ehamba nolonga.
Now we waited there inside while we were still waiting because they were busy examining him. My mother and Longwe arrived.
Yes.
Yes.
And then ke makusenjalo uma wafika wasibuzwa wathi bambeke kuphi right.
While at that, my mother then asked us, where did they place him at? Is he all right?
And then mina ngakhomba nje ngathi bamfake kuleli room.
I only signaled with my finger, as the witness has just demonstrated now, that they have placed him in that room.
Yes.
And then Mawa hamba ke waya towards that room.
My mother then walked towards that room.
Yes.
And then a few seconds later, sisamile nathi lapho. Ngezwe umama eqhuma ngengilo on the other side.
Should be kind. While we're still standing there, a few seconds down the line, my mother then started crying or lamenting while she was on that other side. Could hear her from there.
Did you hear your mother voicing lamentations from inside, or did she emerge amidst lamentations?
Ngezwe nje ngesilile memeza ekhala kwakuzwakala ukuthi uyakhala uma akamemezi nje ngenasidingo.
She audibly cried, my lord. And usually when she cries, she doesn't scream. But this time around, there was that blast of a cry from her.
Yes.
Can you proceed?
Nami ke ila ngabona khona ukuthi khona into engahambi kahle ngaphakathi.
This is also where I realized that there's something that is not okay inside there.
Yes.
Yes. Can you proceed?
And then ngiyakhumbula ukuthi uma weza kuthina la sasime khona.
I remember my mother came where we were standing.
Mangizama ukukhumbula kahle ngazuthi wayehamba nomunye wo doctor noma wo nurse ngaphakathi.
If I recall, she was in the company of one of the doctors or nurses from inside there.
Basho ukuthi uSenzo akasekho.
And then they said that Senzo is no longer.
Who said so? Was it your mother or the doctor?
Ngazuthi udoctor if ngikhumbula ngazuthi udoctor washo njalo.
I'm trying to remember. But if my
but
memory
it's one
serves
of
me
them.
well, it was the doctor. It was the doctor. That said so.
Yes.
And then uKelly wayesecela ukuthi ayombona.
Then Kelly requested for permission to go see him.
Yes.
Wayesecela ukuthi ngibelezele ngaphakathi.
She further asked me to accompany her inside there.
Yes.
And then sangena noKelly sobabili egumbini la yelele khona.
The both of us, myself and Kelly, went into the room in which he was lying.
Yes.
Can you proceed?
And then uKelly wayesekhuluma naye ngisakhumbula ukuthi wayithini kuyena.
Kelly then started to talk to him. I cannot remember what she was saying exactly.
And then wayesemqabula esiphongweni.
She then kissed him on the forehead.
Wayesemkhipha amacici ewafakile.
She took out the earrings that he had.
Angisakhumbuli noma newashi khona iwashi ayifakile I think inalo walikhipha futhi.
And also, even though I cannot clearly remember, but that she also took out the watch that he was wearing. There's a demonstration there, my lord, that the watch was worn on the wrist.
So now that is the watch that the deceased was wearing on his wrist.
Yes.
That's correct.
And the earrings are the ones that Kelly was wearing that she took off.
Ama-earring abegqokwa Kelly.
Amacici ayifake uSenzo wayeselela uKelly wafika wamsusa amacici wayesemkhipha newashi.
It was Senzo that had put on the earrings. Then Kelly took off those earrings and proceeded to take out the watch as well.
Yes.
Yes, you may proceed.
Wayesekhuluma naye isikhashana.
And then she spoke with him for a while.
And then sase siyaphuma ke egumbini.
We then walked out of that room.
Yes.
Sase siyohlanganyela nabanye ke la sasime khona ecaleni.
We went together with the others that we had initially were standing with at that spot.
Yes.
Mase lapho angikhumbula ukuthi ubani wayenzani okwangempela but wonke umuntu wayemuva nje abanye bayakhuluma abanye bawu2 abanye bawu3 but nje sasikhona nje lapho.
Well, while we were at that, I cannot particularize the actions of each and every person that were with us together there. 2 were there. It was some sort of a scene that had some movements. 3 was there. They were talking there, here and there.
Yes.
And then ithema kusenjalo kwafika ubabthwala.
While at that, Mr. Twala arrived.
So which Mr. Twala?
Chico Twala.
That is Chico Twala.
Yes.
Do you perhaps know as to how he happened to arrive at the hospital?
Ngambona nje sefika.
I don't know how did it come about. I only saw him arriving there at the hospital.
And then bathi makusuka lapho base bamtshela ukuthi uSenzo akasekho.
Thereafter, he was told that Senzo is no longer.
Wavele wehla ngobonda la ime khona wavele wahlala phansi.
He then slided down the wall where he was standing until he was able to sit down.
Yes.
And then makusenjalo kwafika abantu ababe baningi kwabadlali bebhola.
While at that, a crowd of people arrived, or a multitude of people arrived there. I think they were soccer players.
Neyintombi zabo abanye.
Some of them with their girlfriends.
Kwakukhona futhi uMandisa nabangani bakhe.
And there was also Mandisa amidst them, together with her friends.
And just for record purposes, who is Mandisa?
Mandisa, right?
uMandisa kwakumuntu kaSenzo.
Umuntu kaSenzo.
Angazi noma ngathi umfazi wakhe noma.
Oh, okay. Mandisa was Senzo's partner. I cannot tell as to whether was she the wife or, but I know that she was Senzo's partner.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then mabengena kwakuMandisa hamba nabangani bakhe phambili.
Now it was Mandisa as they walked in, and she was in front, together with her friends.
And then mabefika baqonda straight kuKelly, bafike bamshaya. Bamshaya bamdonsa neinwele wayenza ama braidings bawahlutha awu2 waphuma.
Now upon their arrival, they went straight to Kelly, and they started assaulting Kelly. Pulled out the braids because she had the braids on her head.
Ama braids lafana nama cornrows.
These braids, as the witness is trying to explain, these are the braids that look like the cornrows.
Come again? I can't
She says it is the braids that look like your cornrows. The cornrows. Cornrows. Cornrows, my lord.
How do you spell that one?
Please spell it.
Abanye bathi straight back, abanye bathi ama cornrows, but nje ku ama line kodwa a thick ayangemuva.
Others would say that it's a straight back.
Straight?
Straight back, a straight back. At least that I know, my lord. And then others will say it's a cornrows. It's a cornrows. You know, these are thicker. Sometimes it could be those thicker lines, my lord, that are braided. Thicker lines from front to the back of the head, straight to the back of the head.
Yes, thanks. And who assaulted your sister, Kelly?
uMandisa nabangani bakhe.
It was Mandisa together with her friends.
Yes.
Mayilokhu emlisa kanjalo elokhu emkhomba ethi usumbulele.
Now, as she was busy fighting her like that, she kept on pointing at her and saying to her that you've already killed him. You've killed him.
Who was saying that?
Mandisa.
Mandisa was saying that. Mandisa was showing that.
Yes.
And then sasesiyasuka sazama ukubahlukanisa ke.
We then went to them to try and separate them.
Baze bahlukana ke.
Eventually they separated.
Ngamtshela mina uMandisa ngathi Mandisa akusona isikhathi lesi.
I then told Mandisa and said, Mandisa, this is not the time.
Futhi uSenzo bengasi umuntu othanda umsindo.
And Senzo was not a person that actually liked hostility.
So azame ukuthi mhlawumbe noma siza ukuthi amaphapha phezulu sehlisa umoya sibhekane nesimo esibhekane naso manje.
Now let us try. No matter how aggrieved we may be feeling or how bad we may be feeling at that time, let's just try to calm down and focus on this situation or on this challenge that we are faced with right now.
Yes.
And then emva kwakho konke lokho I remember ukuthi ngangingokha ngiyimotweni.
After all that had happened, I remember that I was now walking towards the vehicle.
And then ifone yami yaringa.
Then my phone rang.
Nakhona mangithi ngiyayibheka because bengaze ngiyibheke isikhathini eside. Ngathola ukuthi kade vele lokhu ikhala ngayinakile.
And when I looked at the phone, because there was a considerable time that I had ignored looking at the phone or checking at the phone. And I saw that it was ringing several times.
And then ngayibamba ke le ngoba kwakuyinamba nami futhi engayazi.
I then picked up that call. I was thinking myself, that was a number unknown to me.
And then efonini kanjalo mangiqala ngithi hello, and then usisi lo wayengemuva wathi Zandi yimina uMama Joy.
Now, when I picked up the phone, the person who was phone calling and said hello, hello. When I said hello, she then said to me, Zandi, this is myself, Mama Joy.
And who's Mama Joy?
About Mama Joy.
uMama Joy ngangivamisa ukumbona makuthiwa sibukela ibhola ngimbona iTV.
This is the woman that I would usually see on TV when watching a soccer match, perhaps. You know, she'll be clad with
egqoke impahla ze-Orlando Pirates.
Clad with the Orlando Pirates regalia.
So what is that kwenzakaleni?
You then had a conversation with Mama Joy. What happened further? You don't need to dwell on that. What happened further after the conversation?
Wabuza ukuthi kwenzakaleni ngase ngiyamchazela ke.
She asked me what happened. I then explained to her what happened.
Nakhona futhi nakhona ngiyamchazela ngiyakhala at the same time.
As I was explaining to her, I was crying as well.
And then naye ke emva kwalapho wavala ifoni.
She also hung up the phone because she also started crying. So she hung up the phone as well.
Yes.
And then ke sasesingena emotweni ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwakuyimina noKelly noTumelo.
We subsequently went into the vehicle, embarked the vehicle. I remember the occupants at the time. It was myself, Kelly, Tumelo.
Angisakhumbuli kodwa ukuthi uma wangena nathi noma waphinde wabuyela emotweni kaLongo angisakhumbuli kahle.
I cannot clearly remember as to whether my mother also embarked the same vehicle which we were occupying at the time, or that she went back to Longwe's vehicle. That I cannot recall.
And then ke sangena emotweni sahamba sabuyela ekhaya.
We got into the vehicle, drove back home.
Now, just for record purposes, which vehicle is this now?
This is the X6.
It was the X6 vehicle. The X6.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
And then sangena ke X6 sahamba sayikhaya. Masifika ekhaya ngathola sekunama tape avale lapho kumele kube negate khona.
We drove back home, and upon arrival at home, we found that where we should be entering, there already were the tapes that were cordoning that area off.
Yes.
If we can show you photo 1 and 2 of Exhibit A, if you can use the photo to illustrate your evidence.
Sathi mase sifika thina sima ngala sabona ukuthi sekunama tape wona la onawabonayo khona la, and then uKhelo hamba fuwa paka la eceleni.
We came and stopped initially where the driveway begins, just at the capstone of the driveway. The witnesses also pointed on the left and post of that gate, next to it, my lord, next to the left hand post of the gate, right there where the capstone is. And then upon a realization that there's those tapes that had cordoned off that area there, Kelly then drove a little bit forward to go and park at that area depicted by the picture. And the area depicted by the picture is on the right hand.
Yes.
Yes, you may proceed.
And then ke saphuma ke emotweni, mina ngathi mangiphuma nje emotweni ngayiphakamisa i-tape le ngase ngena ngaphansi.
We came out of the vehicle, and personally when I alighted the vehicle, I saw that tape. I lifted up that tape and I went under it.
And then mengifika mina masifika thina sibaka imoto la kwakunabantu vele istrati sesibhizi and then noma futhi ungena ngaphakathi ejardini kunabantu kunamaphoyisa kuneyimoto zamaphoyisa kanjalo.
Now, another thing, upon our arrival there already were people in the street, just the bystanders, and the scene was a moving scene. People were moving, and even inside of the yard, there already were people who were occupying the yard as well. The police officers had also arrived at the scene.
Yes.
And then ke masifika sangena ngaphakathi endlini.
Upon arrival, we then went inside of the house.
Yes.
Mangifika mina ngaphakathi ngiyakhumbula ukuthi kwakunabantu futhi phakathi ngingazi ukuthi obani kahle kahle abanye babe introduce beyibiza ngamaphoyisa bethi yangazi ubrigade yabani bani sesebenza isikhathi esingakanani ku police force.
When I got inside of the house, there already were people who were occupying the house or who were inside of the house during the time. People that were unknown to me, some of them were even introducing themselves to say that I am Brigadier so-and-so working for the SAPS.
Yes.
And then futhi kwakukhona nomunye umuntu wesimame owayinama-threats nyana nje amafishane omkhudlwana ngomzimba.
There was another lady as well who was having dreadlocks, shorter dreadlocks. And now the demonstration of the witness is shorter. She had just used the side of the face beneath the ears, just below the ears.
And then wayese chaza kusisi lo ukuthi I think wathi usebenzela uhulumeni angazi wayisho nje I-position yakhe lapho.
Okay. And this, further on, there was just a part of her evidence which was omitted in terms of the interpretation of that she was bigger. She had a bigger physique. Okay, what's it in?
Wayese chaza ukuthi ubani usebenzela uhulumeni.
She introduced herself, who she was, and that she's working for the government.
Igama nje angisalikhumbuli kahle kodwa futhi wayehamba nabanye futhi ababeseceleni kwakhe.
Now, I cannot recall her name, but she was in the company of others that were with her there. Abebesebenza naye.
Base bayakhuluma ke besiphephisela ngento enzekile nani nani.
Now they started talking to us and comforting us about what had transpired.
And then kwathi makusenjalo nganotice ukuthi iskipa lesinga ihoodie lengangiyifakile egrey yayinegazi.
I was wearing a hoodie sweater that I then realized at the time that it was a gray hoodie sweater, which when I looked at it, I realized that it was stained with blood.
Come again?
When I looked at that hoodie sweater, my lord, that I was wearing, it was a gray hoodie sweater, I looked at it, I realized that it was stained with blood.
There's a word you mentioned, which you before sweater you mentioned something. You said
Hoodie. It was a hoodie.
Hoodie, my lord.
Hoodie, my lord. My lord, for the sake of the record of the court, she didn't say that it was a hoodie sweater. She just said that it was a hoodie. And it was then interpreted completely to say that it was a hoodie sweater, right?
yes.
Yes, we can proceed.
Ngase ngiyangena ke ekamereni lelukhela ibalekele kulona.
I then got into the bedroom in which Kelly had fled into or ran into.
Okwakuyilami isikhathi ngisahlala ekhaya.
Which was my bedroom at the time that I was still residing at home.
And then ngase ngiyayikhumula ke ngase ngifaka ifake coat emnyama.
I then took off that hoodie or the hoodie sweater and put on a fur coat.
And then ngabuyela ngahlala dining room. While ngisahleli lapho kuloko kufika abantu amaphoyisa abanye baya up and down amaphoyisa kanjalo endlini.
I then went to sit in the dining room. The dining room lounge. The dining room. I went to sit at the dining room as depicted by the pictures here. And then while seated like that, there were some people that would be, coming, and others are going, and some of them were police officers, and so on.
And then okunye ngikukhumbulayo ukuthi sithe masangena eminyango ngalesi sikhathi sangena eminyango ifoni kaSenzo ibingaphansi just nje eceleni kwesitofu but ngaphansi ivele kancane masangena sibuya phandle esibhedlela.
When we just stepped into the house, Senzo's phone was in the kitchen. It was in the kitchen, just underneath the stove there. It had just slightly protruded from underneath the stove.
Under the what?
The stove, my lord.
Yes, we'll get to that in a bit. What else did you observe?
And then masingena lapho ngabona i-crush le kaTumelo esasisebenzisa ukushala bobantu.
I also saw Tumelo's crutch, the one that we were using to fight the attackers with.
And then ngase ngiphinde ngibona isigqoko esasifakwe ususpect number 1 noma dreadlocks.
I also saw the hat, which was worn by suspect number 1, the one with the dreadlocks.
Yes.
Now, you say it was worn by the suspect with dreadlocks. Can you just explain to the court why do you say that?
Ngoba la ngihleli khona mayesikhomba ngesibhamethi iphani imali nama-cellphone ngabheka ebusweni ngasibona ukuthi usifakile, and then nalo munye ongemuva accused number 2 wayifake ihoodie.
Because at the time they were demanding money and cell phones. I lifted up my eyes and looked at him, saw his face. I was able to see his face, and I realized that he was also wearing that hat. Accused number 2 was wearing a hoodie. Accused number 2.
I think you are interchanging terminology. You are speaking about suspect number 1 and accused number 2.
Accused number 2, my lord.
And what number attaches to suspect number 1 in terms of designations of accused persons?
Angiyengazi. Sisho accused number 1 akithi. 2 noma 1.
Lalela cha. Le endaweni yesigameko sikhuluma suspects. La enkantolo sikhuluma ngabo accused, abamangale. Angisho. Wena ke ukhulume waqala wakhuluma ngomsolwa wathi lolo befake ihoodie umangalelwa wesibili. Uyazwisisa? Asakhulumi ke manje ngesuspect. Umangalelwa wesibili. Manje sithanda ukwazi ke ukuthi lo ususpect wokuqala ungathi umangalelwa wesingakhi la enkantolo.
Cha, angimboni la enkantolo.
Lo wokuqala. Now the first suspect, I can't see him here in court, my lord.
And by the first suspect,
I can't remember.
Are you referring to what you referred to yesterday as the first intruder?
Masikhuluma ngesuspect leyo. Sikhuluma ke ngalo othi kube intruder yokuqala okanye umngeneleli yokuqala.
Yeah.
That is correct, my lord. The first suspect is the first intruder in accordance with that testimony, my lord.
Yes, whilst we're still on this topic, are you able to give any other description of the first intruder, including the clothes that he was wearing?
Lo owayephambili wayephethe isibhamu enamadress acishe nje awamade wafika futhi la emahlombe amafishanyana nje alanga engasentameni.
This first one, who was in possession of the firearm, he further had the reasonably long dreadlocks. Long dreadlocks that is just under the jawbone. That is how far they could reach under the jawbone.
Yes.
and then wayifaka isigqoko esisikhoshi.
He was wearing a check kind of a hat.
Okwe height wayengemude kakhulu wayengemfishane futhi kakhulu wayephathi nendawo.
Now, in terms of the height, he was neither too short nor too tall. He just had a middle height.
Yes.
And then isikhumba sakhe sasicwebezela simnyama. Nakhona futhi hayi kakhulu nyamanyana nje hayi kakhulu.
He had a shinier kind of a black complexion. He was not too dark though. He was dark, that I can assert that he was dark, but not very dark. The complexion was a darkish, shinier complexion of that man.
Just to avoid confusion, Mr. Interpreter, I think where you ended up, it doesn't confuse me. But a bit earlier on, you used the word black.
As the court pleases, my lord. She indicated that he was black, but not. Sorry, he was black, yes, my lord, but not very dark. Perhaps he was dark, but not very dark, my lord.
Yeah.
As the court pleases.
I just want us to clarify, because I believe everybody who was there was black.
Was a black person. I understand, my lord. I understand.
All right. Yes?
Yes, I understand.
Yes. What other description can you give?
Wayenobuso ngathini obukafekile kodwa nama ngathini yesibathi ama contoured face.
He had a contoured face, my lord, as the witness also assisted. He had a contoured face.
Can you just explain in simple terms what that means?
Mangisho kanjalo ukuthi mawubheke ijawline kanje.
Yeah.
Ihlathi uyalibona ithamba njengoba ubona kumina. Bese neziqhomo zakhona futhi nazo ziyabonakala namehlo ayimakhuhlwana.
He had perhaps I should say a bolder jawbone, or a jawline that was clearly visible, and as well as the cheekbone. That as well was clearly visible. It was clearly visible, and namehla bemakhulu. And he also had bigger eyes.
And then okwe weight wengemkhulu engemncane futhi.
As far as weight is concerned, he wasn't too big, neither was he too small also in terms of the physique.
Yes. And the clothes, are you able to describe the clothes?
Angisakhumbuli kahle empahleni. Angisakhumbuli kahle empahleni.
I can't remember clearly as far as the clothing items were concerned.
Yeah. The firearm, you mentioned that it made a click sound. Are you able to give any other description?
What was the question?
You mentioned earlier on in your testimony that the firearm made a click sound. Are you able to give any other description?
Anginalo ulwazi lwebhamu. Anginaso futhi nami.
I don't have a knowledge of firearms. I also don't have a firearm.
Engikukhumbulayo nje ukuthi sasidarkish.
What I remember is that it was darkish.
And then senza low click le engayizwayo.
And the clicking sound was made by that firearm.
Yes, can we then, can you give a description of the other suspect that you described as accused number 2?
Lo wesibili wayemude
The second one was tall,
emncane ngomzimba,
and he had a slender build body.
and then okuningi engangikubona ngoba wayefake ihoodie evale kanje. Ngangibona nje la esilevini.
Now, what I could see was the jaw and the chin area, because he had the hoodie covering his head.
And then ngabona futhi nala mawuya ngase wayibonakala vele ubuso kanje kodwa obviously kune shadow ye hoodie.
Well, I should say that one could reasonably see the face, and the witness is actually now pointing at the central part of the face. However, the challenge was that, given the fact that he had a hoodie on, there was that shading that was cast on the face, or on the part of the face.
Yeah. What else? What other description can you give?
Ngiyakhumbula ukuthi wayefake ihoodie leyo lighting kwangazuthi beige brown. Yeah, ikalapho nje.
I remember that the hoodie that he had, under the light, it would appear to be a combination of either brown, beige color.
Any other description, or is it all?
Yeah,
That would be all.
Abese futhi ngikhumbula ukuthi ube nentshetshana nje encanyana la ibe ayithe qwaqwa nje ayiningi.
He also had a beard, just a smaller beard, which did not fill the entire chin.
Hayi silokho kodwa.
That would be about it.
Now, if we can come back to your observations in the kitchen when you came back from hospital. You've already mentioned the cell phone of the deceased.
Okunye futhi ngikhumbula ukuthi ifone kaMama kwakuyi BlackBerry ngaleso sikhathi.
Another thing that I remember is that my mother owned a BlackBerry cell phone, which was on the stove. On the stove.
When was it on the stove?
I beg my lord?
When was it on the stove?
Thina masibuye esibhedlela ngayibona nje phezu kwesitofu usho ukuthi wayecharger khona iplug eseceleni kwesitofu usho ukuthi wayisebenzisa yona ukucharge.
At the time that we were coming from the hospital, the cell phone was on the stove because there is a charging point there. There's a plug that is next to the stove, which was being used to recharge the battery of the phone there.
Yes, what else did you observe?
And then ngabona futhi nesigqoko ebesigqokwe ususpect number 1.
I also saw a hat which was worn by suspect number 1.
Ibona kodwa lokho ngakubona.
That's just about all that I had noticed in there.
We're going to show you photos 5 and 6.
So a photo number 5.
Of exhibit A.
Yeah, exhibit
One of
A.
them appear on page 8 of the bundle.
Page?
Page 8 of the bundle. Photo 5 and 6.
Yeah.
We are on photo 5, perhaps photo 6. If you can perhaps give your evidence using that photo as an illustration. It's photo 6 of exhibit A.
Uyabona ke uma ungathola ubufakazi bakho usebenzisa ke lesisithombe esimane.
La lesi isigqoko lesi esasigqokwe ususpect number 1.
This is the hat that was worn by suspect number 1.
And then le iyona icrash esasisebenzisa ukushaya ususpect number 2.
And then that item over there is a crutch that was being used to hit suspect number 1.
Number 2.
Suspect number 2 with?
And then makuya ngala ngasestofini ngoba istofu ilesi la phezulu. Makuya la ngasestofini ifoni kaSenzo yayilapho. But ke kodwa mawubheke from phezulu isitheke kancane itop ye emakhabethe.
Right there, next to the crutch, towards the end or the foot end of the crutch, there is a depiction, and the light is still playing there, on that border there, indicating that is a stove.
Indicating?
My lord?
Indicating what?
There's a stove there. Just when one were to see a picture above the light as shown there, there is a stove.
So the stove is near the crutch?
Stove is
Hey,
near
nansi
the crutch.
crash la nasi stofu la.
That's correct, my lord. There's the crutch there. And there's the stove over there. Ukhulume ngetop ebingabonakali utheni?
Bese kune top yamakhabethe abantu bayazi ukuthi ni top. So ifoni mayila phansi uyibona awuyiboni yonke isidumbu sonke siphelele. Naso. Ifoni mayila phansi angeke usibone sonke isidumbu uzobona at least half wakhona.
Well, there is a top of that cabinet. And
A
when the
top of-
phone, the top of the cabinet, my lord,
Okay.
which is not depicted. And, but at that very spot where the light is, that is where the phone was. And a person looking from a different angle would not be able to see the entirety of that phone. Or so a person would only see perhaps partly the device.
In what direction would the top you are talking about? If I were to raise my eyes from the crutch to the top you are talking about, what trajectory would you indicate?
Itop ihamba la phezulu
Okay.
emantuzeni.
So it's running
Makhabetheni.
at a higher level, just as the
The
crutch
cupboards.
is positioned. All
That
right.
is correct, my lord.
Right, we'll show you another photo. Photo 12. If you're able to use that photo to illustrate.
Yayibona ukuthi itop ngazuthi iya overlap kancane iza ngaphambili. So ifoni yayima la. So mawuyibheke from ume khona ngeke uyibone kahle kahle uzobona uhafu unless uqhamuka eminyango.
All right, mawibheke ume kuphi?
Mawuyibheke ume la angeke uyibone kahle kahle uzobona uhafu.
Oh, ngenxa yale top.
Ngenxa yelitop yabona yenza isithunzi la, so ithunzi lakhona lihamba lize liyofika ezantsi.
Okay. Your Lordship, this is now the proper depiction of what I'm talking about. If one is standing right next to that cabinet there, and one can see the top of the cabinet.
What photo number?
Your Lordship?
Photo number 12 now. Of Exhibit B. It's on page 28 of the bundle.
So when one is standing next to that cabinet, my lord, given the fact that, as the witness has used the term that the top is sort of overlapping, or it is an extended top, beneath the top there is that shading.
There is that?
A shading or a shade under the top, just under that layer of the top, there is a shade which entails that when a person is looking down on the floor, they cannot see the whole device or the cell phone. Part of the cell phone will be seen if one is standing against that that cabinet with that extended top.
I think it's called the overhang, if I'm not mistaken, that extended part.
Yes.
I didn't hear you.
It's called an overhang.
Oh.
Can you just show where your mother's phone was?
The
BlackBerry?
Ngizocela esinye isithombe.
I'm asking for another photograph.
That's photo 13.
Asibeze yeah, kangconywana.
Yes, that's better.
Ifoni kama yayima la.
Should it,
And then nansi indawo yokucharger la.
Okay. My mother's phone was there, and the light is on the plate of the stove or on the stove itself. And then just above that, there is a plug, a white plug over there. So she'll be using that point to recharge her phone.
That's photo number?
It's photo
13, my lord.
number 13, my lord, of Exhibit B that appears on page 28 of the bundle. Yes, what else did you observe then?
I think kwakuyilokho nje. Oh ngase masesiqeda ukungena and then ngajika ngabheka umnyango, nganotice ukuthi umnyango yayinembobo ye bullet, mhlawumbe ibullet yangena khona.
After we had gotten into the house, I turned around and I looked at the door, and I observed that there were some puncturing holes, or the bullet holes on the door.
Which door?
Umnyango lo wase kitchen.
That kitchen door, the witness just also lit on the other picture there. One of the side pictures.
Going to show you
The same.
photos 18 and 19 of Exhibit B. If you can use the photo to illustrate your evidence.
Iyona ke lembobo engayibona ke mangena as well.
Now this is the hole that I'm referring to, which I observed when I walked in.
It's photo 18 of Exhibit B, page 32 of the bundle.
Yeah.
If photo 19 can also be shown.
Photo ngayo, le 19.
Wena futhi angithi yona isithombe esifanayo ngithi lesi. So ngabona nami ukuthi la khona ibullet engene la, obuhlahlekile umnyango.
Well, this is the same spot of the bullet on the door, my lord. Then I saw that this hole here is indeed the bullet hole. Well,
Which one?
like,
Which one?
that is photo number 19, my lord.
Yeah, I'm saying the hole. I thought she's
yeah.
zooming onto the hole.
Your lordship, there is a spot there that she had just pointed, which is now indicative of that bullet hole.
Umnyango wasekhaya ngokujwayelekile ayikho lento le. Umnyango nje plain right, awunalutho, awunamboba, uhlahlekile ngandlela thina.
Normally there is not how.
Okay.
Normally, your lordship, that is not how this door looks like. There is no hole. There's no damage on the door. There's nothing that has been depicted here under normal circumstances that one would find at that door, my lord.
In other words, you are saying before the door was intact,
Ngamanye amazwi njalo,
that-
buphelele nje kungekho.
the panel of the door was uninterrupted,
Usho kanjalo,
unlike
my lord.
what it is now.
That is correct, my lord.
So are you saying even the splinterings that one notices, the splinters there?
Yabona khona lama splinters okanye ingxenye nje zenkuni yalomnyango ezibonakalayo lapho bezingekho.
Bezingekho, cha bezingekho.
They were not there, my lord. Initially they were not there.
Are you able to tell this court as to what led to the discovery of the deceased phone?
Besingena endlini and masingena from ekitchen kuba ngathi uphansi kanje. So amehlo vele mayingena endlini ubona phansi. Kuyasetheka nje, uyabona. Ubona phansi.
Should ngaphansi.
Mawungaphandle
wehlile.
bese mawuzongena endlini ngathi unyuka istep isana nje sincanyane kusa platform.
You know, when one is standing outside at the door of the kitchen and you haven't taken a step into the house, your eyes can automatically access the floor of the house, given the fact that you are at a lower level than the level of the surface of the kitchen. Now, when you have to walk into the kitchen, there is a step of elevation into the kitchen surface. So you've got a step there, and then you walk into the kitchen.
Yes.
And what type of cell phone was it?
Okay.
Bekuyi iPhone 5
It was an iPhone 5.
esayintsha nje impela.
It was reasonably new.
Yes.
You can proceed with your evidence, what happened later that night.
And then while sisekhona nje endlini kulokhu kungena abantu be-introduce amaphoyisa ukuthi mina ngubani wakabani wenza ini.
While we were still inside of the house and people were coming in, frequenting the house, and they were introducing themselves, and the one would say that I am a police officer, this is what I am doing, or this is my job description pertaining to this incident.
And then kwakhona amanye amaphoyisa ashoyo ukuthi-ke hhayi-ke sizonithatha kusasa niyosinikeza i-statement ngoba siyabona ukuthi manje kusaxakaxakeni.
Then there were some of the police officers that said that, look, we will come and fetch you tomorrow, because right now we can see that there's a degree of being unprepared, or there's just the uneasiness that we are picking up from you, so that you can go and furnish us with your statements.
And then-ke mangisuka lapho ngaya ekamereni leli ukhe layibalekele kulona okuyikamera lami ngaleso sikhathi.
From there, I went into the bedroom in which Kelly had ran into, because that bedroom was mine during the time.
And then ngathatha nje isikhwanyana esincane ngapheka izinto ngoba uKelly bethi zinquma ukuthi solala kwakhe.
I then took
khona ukulala lapho.
I took a bag, a smaller bag, to put on my clothing items, because Kelly had indicated that we should go rather and sleep at her house.
Yes.
Yes, we proceed.
And then ngevele ngapaka and then sathatha izinto zengane ngiyakhumbula.
I then packed. I also remember that we also took the child's items as well.
Mostly vele bekuyinto zengane.
Mostly were the child's items.
And then also sapakela uChristian naye
We also packed for Christian as well.
okwengane kaKelly yokuqala.
That is Kelly's first child.
And where were the children?
You just said clothes of the child before you
Teen.
mentioned Christian.
Yebo uthi nguyena omncane.
Undodakazi.
kaKelly noSenzo.
I'm referring to Tingo. Tingo is a younger sibling to Christian, and she is the offspring of Senzo and Kelly.
And when the incident occurred, where were the children?
So before njengoba nibonile kukhona isithombe besikhona la bengihleli khona kunonodoli wengane. Mina ke ngithanda ingane ekhaya bayazi ukuthi mina ngihlale ngo-auntie.
Since you observed that there was a picture that it depicted myself sitting down with a doll, and but it is known at home that I love the dolls.
I love kids.
I love kids. Sorry, I love kids. Obophethe unodoli.
Bemphethe umntwana.
Obophethe
uhleli
umntwana.
nodoli,
Uhleli nonodoli.
Yes.
So I was carrying a child, and I also had a doll with me.
When was that?
In
Before
2019.
yonke into nje yenzeka masadla sihleli kumnandi emini.
Before this incident happened, while we were just seated together and were eating during the course of the day,
If photo 64.
Before that,
I'm sorry, Mano.
you say you were carrying a child,
that's correct, my lord.
and I think it's yesterday when you told us that your role, one of your roles over that afternoon into the evening,
was to get a supply of drinks from the fridge.
That is correct, my lord.
Were you doing this whilst carrying the child?
Cha phela ingane mayikhona endlini iyathathwa inikwe omunye uzokwazi ukwenza okunye futhi nabazali bengane bebekhona khona lapho. So at some point ingane ibika umthobo kwesinye isikhathi ibika ukheli kwesinye isikhathi ikumasi kwesinye isikhathi kusenzo.
Now, if there are other people inside of the house and one person ought to do some chore, the child can be passed from the hands of one person to another so the person can continue with their chores. Now, the child would be passed from myself to Mtogo. At some stage, the child was in the hands of, and my lord, further that the parents were also there. Then the child would be in the hands of my mother, then Mtogo, Umama, and then Kelly, and the child would also be passed over.
Basically everyone.
Correct, my lord.
Yes, if you can use the photo 64 of Exhibit B that appears on page 64 of the bundle to demonstrate your...
So ila bengihleli khona ke mina njengoba nibona ukuthi uNodoli ula ila bengihleli khona ngidlala nengane isikhathi esiningi.
Since it is depicted that there is a doll over there, that is where I was sitting, carrying a child there. Yes, and I was sort of playing with the child there.
So which one?
I'm referring to Tingo.
And where were the children, Christian and Tingo, during the incident?
Christian or Tingo
Christian ke uyobelokhu ejumpa from one point eya kwelinye side aphinde nini ngambona edlula emva kwami nakhona mayedlula emva kwami uya ngase dining room angibona ukuthi uphelele e dining room aphinde adlule futhi aye ngathi uya ngase kamereni kanjalo.
Now Tingo was moving from one point to another. At some stage, Christian was moving from one point to another, and then at some point he walked past where I was from behind, and then there was a stage where he would also look. It would look as though he's going into the bedroom, or towards the bedroom.
And then ukumbuka kwami ngangibona ukuthi mhlambe uyabona ukuthi khona into angayijwayele yenzeka la endlini ngoba akazi ukuthi kwenzakala noyabona nje ukuthi kuyisiphithiphithi.
Now, when I closely had a look at him, I realized that he's also confused and perhaps he's wondering what is happening in the house, because what was happening in the house was something that it looked as though it was confusing him.
Now, you mentioned that Mr. Tumelo Madlala ran in one of the bedrooms. Do you know when he came out of that bedroom?
No, I didn't even see him when he came out of the room. My lord, can I just clarify something? The witness actually indicated that I didn't even see him when he walked out.
Yes.
And not necessarily out of the room, but when he walked out.
Yes.
You also mentioned in your evidence that after the first bullet was discharged, you were struck by some splinters from the surface.
That is indeed so.
Did you sustain any injuries?
Ngaba nje nokushiseka okuncane okwakusonyaweni angazi noma ngakhomba na unyawo lami la right eqakaleni.
There was some burning. There was some burning or a burn that I had sustained on my right foot,
leg,
particularly on the ankle. I'm not sure as to whether I can show the court that.
Yes, if it's possible.
Okay.
I cannot see. Oh, if you go Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
The witness has pointed on the front part of the entrance, my lord.
Were you able to see? You may rise to be able to see. Can you go to the place so that they see?
Comfortable with the explanation, all right?
All right. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Did you receive any medical treatment for the injury?
Cha ngizange kudinge unyango ngoba kwakuncane kakhulu kodwa kuncinca igazi kwakungesiyona into enkulu kangakanani ukuthi ngaze ngihambe mhlawumbe or yangiphazamisa ngaze ngihambe ngiyofuna udoctor.
No, I didn't go for a medical attention because this was actually a superficial kind of a wound, even though it was slightly bleeding. It couldn't have compelled me to go seek for the medical attention.
And more or less, what time was it when the two assailants struck, when they entered the house?
Angisakhumbuli kahle kodwa kwakula ko 7 to 8 ntambama.
I am uncertain about the precise time. It could have been between 7 to 8 o'clock p.m.
And did you yourself partake of any alcohol on the particular evening?
Onzona.
Yebo, kunjalo.
Yes.
Mina noKelly sasishare i6 yeGuarana.
6 year Guarana. It is indeed so. Myself and Kelly, we were sharing the 6 Amaken in Amman.
Amaken.
Okay. We're sharing the 6 cans of Guarana.
Do you remember how many cans you had on that particular evening?
How big were the cans?
Mancane kakhulu
liters.
amaken eGuarana mancane kakhulu angazi ngama milliliters singasho sithi angazi mhlawumbe 3 bani labo 3 angikho sure.
They were very small, very small. My estimation would be playing around 300 and something milliliters, but they were quite small.
Actually lingana nekani le Red Bull yokuqala lencane.
In an actual fact, it could be the size of a smaller Red Bull, Red Bull can.
The lean size.
That is correct.
We just want to show you photo 115. If you can use that photo to give your evidence.
Le iyo ke iGuarana esasiphuza noKelly.
Now that very one that I pointed at, it is the Guarana that myself and Kelly were drinking.
It's photo number 115 of Exhibit B that appears on page 90 of the bundle. Also 114 up to 122. And Ms. Khumalo, can you remember how many of these Guaranas cans we had?
Herself, in a
Yes.
singular.
Yes.
All right. When Opuzonga,
More than 3.
not more than 3.
And what was the state of your sobriety?
Hayi ngangise right ngempela futhi ngoba ngingakangeni ngisho eplakini.
Well, I was sober. To tell the truth, I was still sober. I had not been intoxicated as yet.
And when the incident occurred, for how long had you been dating Mr. Longo Twala?
Mangizama ukukhumbula kwangesisikhathi eside kodwa sasi between 3, 4 months, 5 months lapho.
If my memory serves me well, it wasn't a long time that I had spent in that relationship with Mr. Longo Twala. My estimation would be around 3, 4 months in a relationship.
And before this particular day, the 26th of October 2014, when last did you see Longwe?
Ngangimbone ngayizolo usho ukuthi umgqibelo.
Shooting 825. I had seen him a day before, which is the 25th, and that was on a Saturday.
And where was that?
Kusho ukuthi sathi masibuya eshowini kwenye can do esasinayo ngalo mgqibelo loyo engazange yenzeke because kwakunetha and then sasesiya endlini lapho uSenzo noKhela abahlala khona eMalberton, and then nolongweke weza lapho ila isabonela khona.
After the show, that did not even materialize. That is called a can-do. A can-do show. We then proceeded from there.
Soweto.
And that show was supposed to have happened in Soweto, and then Mansuka Konanaya in Malberton. From there, we proceeded to Malberton. No Senzo. That is where Kelly and Senzo were residing.
By the way, you said the can-do show was staged at what venue?
Angikhumbuli kahle ukuthi yayi kumele yenzeke kuphi, kodwa ngiyakhumbula ukuthi yathi mayingasenzeki khona indlu esa ngathi ichillas kanje kwathiwa sihlale khona silinde sibone ukuthi imvula iyama noma yini.
Now I remember, given the fact that the show couldn't happen anymore, we went to a house, a chillers kind of a house, where they said that we should just wait there at that house because it was also raining, just to check as to whether the rain will be able to stop.
Now, is Chillers a name of a specific house or a name indicating the type of a house that you went to?
It's a type of a house, my lord.
Can you tell us what a Chillers house looks like?
Ichillas kusuke kuyindlu mhlambe la bathengisa khona ukudla neziphuzo, and then kunano music futhi.
Chillers is a house where usually food would be sold, drinks also would be sold there, and you know there will also be a music that is being played there.
So it's a holding place where people sit and wait for an occasion to happen.
Akunjalo, ilo ndawo le indlu nje kusuke kuthengiswa vele indlu yebusiness, so thina kwathiwa nje siyohlala khona lapho kwesikhashana sihamba nayo Arthur mafukathi umphathi we can do.
Now that house, its principal business is to continue with that business of selling food and drinks, and then we were then told that we should go and wait at that house. And we were in the company of Arthur Mafukate, who is now the organizer or the director of that Can Do show.
Are you saying Arthur Mafukate was there, or are you saying it is his place?
Why lapho angikholwa ukuthi indawo yakhe?
He was merely there, my lord. I am not sure, or I cannot say that it was his place.
Yes.
Now, what time did Longwe leave Malberton on the 25th of October 2014?
Noma ngasazi isikhathi kahle hle, kodwa khona kwakuse ku late nyana, kodwa u12 ungakashayi.
U12
wasebusuku.
I cannot be certain about the time. It was reasonably late, but it had not hit 12 midnight on the dot as yet.
And maybe just two aspects before we adjourn. Did you see what happened to Mthokozi Zitwala from the hospital?
Umthokozisi sathi masihamba sesithi sesiyekhaya naye simazisa ukuthi njengoba sifike sonke sesiyahamba, wathi yena uyasala ngoba khona uMandisa lapho uzosala noMandisa.
Mthokozisi, when we approached him to tell him that we are now leaving, we're going home, indicated that he wouldn't be leaving because Mandisa was still in that establishment. So he will be left behind.
The person that you described as the second suspect that you described as accused number 2, you mentioned that the first suspect had a firearm. Did accused number 2 have anything in his possession?
No, I didn't see anything in his possession.
So could please, my lord, we've reached the end of the normal sitting time. Can the matter then be adjourned?
Yes.
Mr. Court, please, my lord, we were supposed to have carried on next week, but due to the fact that new counsel have come into the matter, one of the counsels is not available next week. And for the next 2 weeks, the earliest that we can continue with the matter, my lord, will be then the 12th of June.
Yes.
We will request that, as the court pleases, we'll make arrangements with the witness to be here. It will not be necessary to warn him, my lord.
Come again.
We will make arrangements with the witness to be here. It will not be necessary to warn her for court, my lord.
May the accused rise. This case is postponed with the accused in custody. It's postponed to the 12th of June, 2023 for further hearing.
Accused understand, my lord?
Ms. Khumalo, you remember the warning I gave you around discussion, around issues pertaining to this case, your evidence, whatever has to do with this case.
We are
the situation is not the fairest to you because it's a bit of a lengthy postponement, but nothing could be done about it.
Advocate Nisi, the head of the accused is up, my lord.
Is the court, my lord.
Witness understands, my lord.
I'm sorry, my lord. It is sorted, my lord.